That's right, ladies and gentlemen. When there's Valorant news, you better believe there's going to be three talking heads to rant about it. Welcome back to Valoranting, a professional ranting show. I am Mitch Leslie. We got a ton of stuff to talk about today, but big shout out to everyone joining us here live right now on Twitch. Of course, you can follow us at twitter.com/DNPeak and of course, youtube.com/Do Not Peak Entertainment. Great to have you here. Today we're going to be talking about episode 2, a huge day for Valorant here as 2021 is already kicking off with a bang. We're looking at the best tweet. We're also going to catch up with Heather, Sapphire, Garozzo, who had a chance to get in the driver's seat with Yoru earlier on. But I'm here, of course, with TSM, Vansilli, and Valley. What's going on, fam? Great to have you back. 2021, we're kicking it off with a bang.
Yeah, I'm feeling good right now. The intro gave me goosebumps. We're finally back to work, and most importantly, I'm happy to be working with you again, Uber. But it's my brother Jackie Chan for Russia. we out here, man. I'm happy to be back with you too.
Super happy as well. I mean, I can't not contain my excitement. I'm already laughing and smiling a lot. It's great for 2021. We saw the episode 2 from the developers yesterday. We already had a tournament that happened over the last weekend. And now we got Champions Tour that's about to kick off in the circuit in the next month. So, I mean, it's already starting off very, very great for the Valorant scene.
Yeah, I thought we'd have a bit of lead up into it, but it turns out we just hit the ground running here in 2021. Let's start with what you just mentioned, obviously, because yesterday we got a developer live stream hosted by Tyler Erzberger. Some know him as Fionn on Fire. He's also the self-proclaimed esports writer, which I think is an earned title at this point.
100%.
But we got to actually have an opportunity to see, you know, Fionn, who's very much entrenched in the community and knows a lot of the questions that many of us have about the game and about the future of Valorant. He had a chance to sit down with devs from different departments, one after another, and pick their brains about what's coming, excuse me, not just with episode 2, but with 2021 in general. So let's start on that first and foremost, because I think the first thing that we got from this live stream, Vansilli, was we heard from the competitive team a little bit about what's happening in ranked and some changes, crucially, to leaderboards.
Yeah, I think the leaderboard's pretty cool in terms of being able to flash your ego as to where you're going to end in the episode, where you're going to end in acts, and how it basically going into Radiant is only into the top 500, while the Immortals is they're going to have a leaderboard for the Immortals, which is going to be the 1% of the player base of Valorant. So anything before that, you have to make sure that you grind it up to those rankings to be able to get it. I think this is super cool. I also like the fact that it only starts at Immortal and higher, because I've already sensed a lot of toxicity playing in the platinum levels, playing in the gold levels of like,
platinum?
I'm not able to move up. I'm not able to move up. Like, and then they always blame it on you. It's never their fault. And to see that they're not going to be using their ego on the ranking, at least in those rankings, is a great start, at least to test it out.
Wait, time out. The fact that you can anonymize your name is Secret Agent. Yo, I am Secret Agent Belly all day, every day. That's fantastic. Hey, but it's about time. Like, waiting for those arrows. Like, okay, when the hell am I going to rank up? We can finally see it. Yeah, you guys see it right there in the middle. Secret Agent. I'm waiting until the first screenshot drops on Twitter where everyone is Secret Agent. That's going to happen. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of some of the features that we saw included in the game to protect like streamers, like anonymizing themselves in a lobby and also preventing, you know, the other players' names from being visible. It's like maybe because we heard straight from the competitive team that this will be a real-time updating ladder. You know, you could get people trying to stream snipe people that are like, you know, top 3 trying to get top 1. And if they know exactly who that is, maybe that player would rather anonymize themselves. So that's fair enough. I'm glad it includes Immortal and up. And yes, if you're Immortal and up, you're top 1%. Congratulations. Pat yourself on the back. So that I don't have to deal with this in my gold game. Just someone like, yeah, well, I'm ranked 270,000 and you're ranked 400,000. So, yeah. You know, like, I think that makes perfect sense. Obviously, top 500 is you know, Radiant. So there will be a lot of fighting over those top spots. And your rank is immortalized at the end of the act, which is great. So no one can take that away from you. Veli, you touched briefly on the arrows, right? Obviously, when we rank up and down in Valorant prior to this, we didn't get a lot of feedback. It was like, you either ranked up a lot or a little, but we don't know how much that was. The arrows kind of plagued our ranked existence as we tried to chase as many of the green ones.
So I was working my way out of gold. Yes, I'm a gold right now, right? And as I was getting there, I won like 3 games in a row. I just kept seeing that same dumbass arrow pointing up. And I'm like, okay, win. So now there's a number system that'll tell you when you're going to rank. Is that the right word? And up rank. I don't know if that's the right word too. But it's so much more clearer now. It's not a game of just question marks at all.
Mhm,
Now
mhm.
it's smack dab in front of your face.
I think even before this came out here, Uber and Veli, in terms of the announcement for the new RRs here, as we abbreviated, there was already a big shout. And I want to give a big shout out here to Rumble Mike. He already came out with like this third person or third party program that he coded out that a lot of the streamers like. Even Sideshow did it and Sean Garris did it. And then they put on their stream where it shows literally how many points you win or how many points you lose within your MMR. So you already had an idea when you're going to rank up and when you're going to rank down. And probably that is exactly what is announced yesterday. So the only thing he did was grab the source that was already public there somehow within the Riot client. This guy's only 17 years old, by the way, and he was able to code this. So this is amazing from Rumble Mike. I used it myself. And honestly, being able to see my own ranking of how much I could move up and how much I could lose when I lose matches, it's less aggravating than seeing the arrows because I know when the next game is going to be for me to rank up. I know I have to try really hard. If I don't make it, I know how much I lost and how many games I have to win potentially. And it's not about I got 2 arrows and I ranked up and then I lost the game. I lost 1 arrow, but I deranked. And then I got 3 arrows on the other one that I won and I didn't rank up. That shit was fucking confusing. So I'm really happy that we see this type of points ranking system instead, and I think it's going to be funner to watch for episode 2.
I like
Crucially,
that.
crucially as well, now the game when you go into a game, if that will be your D rank game.
Exactly.
So you have an idea as well as your rank up game. You have a decent idea. I think the hardest part is people's expectations weren't being set very accurately by the rank model because you would derank unexpectedly. You would also rank up unexpectedly, but there were some times where you're like, I've been winning a ton of games. I'm triple green arrow, the last 3 games, still not ranking up. And there's a frustration there. So any situation where, Valorant can eliminate the need for like an outside tool for players to get more feedback on how they're trending within their kind of rank is really good. So it's going to be like League of Legends in a way, except no promo games.
Yeah.
So you'll go up and down. And again, it sort of details there's some of your sort of, max loss rates and gain rates. You can see that all as the patch notes have been dropped today.
To summarize it, to make it even easier for those that are seeing this for the first time, is that every single time you're within a rank, so let's say I'm plat 2 right now, to know for me to make it to plat 3, I need to make 100 points. So if you win a game, you could win between 10 and 15 points. If you lose a game, I think it's between 10 and 30. And then you just have to try to make sure that you reach 100 points to be able to make it to the next rank. Very simple as a thought process.
And your ELO is still going to be hidden, so the amount you win and lose still isn't going to necessarily be told to you by the system. So you may still want to do it. When I've played, I've wanted to try and get an idea of if I'm above or below my current rank, or whether the system is trying to move me up or down. Because everyone's like, "No, the system's trying to keep me down. I'm losing more than I'm gaining more." So you could probably still use a tool like Vansilli mentioned to do that. But let's keep cracking on here because we also had a chance to hear from the maps team. And first of all, we know that Icebox was actually the intended map for this episode. We got it early because people were asking for it. And of course, I think we needed 5 maps for First Strike.
And look what we asked for. It was Icebox. We should just shut up next time.
And they rushed it too. I think, at that point. When Icebox first came out, you already saw some changes that came in a couple of weeks later. There were some good changes overall, but I think that personally, this map probably still needs a lot of work, which is why when you're looking at all these events that currently have BO3s instead of BO5 in the finals or even BO3 into the brackets, it's almost certain at 100% or 95% of the cases that Icebox is going to get banned. And then maybe at 75 to 80% of the cases, the second map to be banned is going to be Split. So you're always going to have the 3 other standard maps that's going to be played instead. But nobody's really trying to practice into Icebox or into Split as of yet, because they could still just automatically ban those and use the standard maps to their advantages. So I think the Icebox, maybe it's going to need more time. Of course, as we saw this go through, Split is going to need some time as well. I think they're going to have some rework on it into the next month.
Obviously, as well, people are sometimes banning these maps because they don't want to play certain opponents on them. Like every time someone goes up against Renegades, they're banning Split because it's whack to play that team on that particular map. So it doesn't necessarily mean they don't want to play the map in general. There are some teams that just look really good on them. So yeah, I mean, excuse me, they're hoping to have 7 maps by the end of the year. I think is what we heard from Volcano, which is great. But that's a way of setting everyone's expectation on maybe how frequently we should expect to see them. They sort of said that they wanted to be fairly light-handed with it, and just sort of now that Icebox is in there, they just want to take their time with how they sort of make changes. What do you feel about that? Do you want to see something drastic for that map, or are you kind of happy with this more like leisurely pace?
From all the conversations and interviews I've listened to and watched and been a part of, I still feel like Icebox was still like the beta test for all of the wacky, in a good way, ideas that they're going to incorporate in the future. And that's the reason why I believe that they put it out early. It's not because we're just asking for a map. It's for the fact that, okay, this is the weirdest map. You know, we have ropes, you know, you can do all these different types of things. It's a weird maps by standards of what type of FPS this is. I still think we're going to get a lot of weird stuff in the future. When you say light-handed, what do they mean by that?
Well, no, you go, Vansilli, because
yeah,
I was probably
that,
burping a kid while I was watching.
Speaking of kids, by the way, we didn't get a chance to say it on air either. Congratulations, by the way, on the new kid here, Mitch. So already home right now. Griffin, Theophilus.
Theophilus. It's a family. It's a family name. Yeah,
that's awesome. That's awesome. Yo, 8 pounds, dude.
He's so heavy.
A mighty baby.
I have to I can't just hold him indefinitely, right? And I've been training. I've been working out. Like I had to have a pillow under my arm or something because the bloke's just kind of a chungus.
Dude.
It feels like you got to change arms every 15 minutes.
Yeah,
like your new workout streams are just going to be you holding a baby now.
His middle name alone, I just know he's going to be an elite gamer or just a complete badass in life. So I dig it.
That's it.
Like a god, yo. Go ahead.
I mean, so I think to touch back on what Veli was saying for light touching on Split. So I think they're just going to slowly rework the map as we go as well. I don't think it's going to be super drastic because we already had some original changes on that map, maybe really early as soon as when Valorant came out over the summertime. So we saw some changes over on mid side, and I think what they're trying to work right now is to try to make it more attacker favored. Maybe not fully attacker favored, but give more chances for the attacker side to get some rounds and maybe clear out some angles that are still too tight in terms of 50-50s to keep you guessing when you're trying to enter areas. So, for example, I'm still thinking when you're trying to rush into B main on Split and you're trying to look back towards B heaven, but there's also an opponent that could hold right behind the boxes on the left side.
Yeah.
Then that's a very tough 50-50 corner to check, which makes it harder to enter into the B site.
So now that I know what that means, so now I have a formulated opinion. The one thing that they need to keep cognizant whenever they rework these maps or whatever, I'm so happy that they're actually reworking these maps early and not years down the line, right? I hate the deep pockets where people could hide. The deep pockets where people can hide. Just like you said, when you come out of garage, not only do you have to watch heaven, but that deep pocket to the left. And it's not just straight to the left, there's verticality as well. That's something that they're going to have to be easier about. Now, that box that's there in default, you can't wallbang that anymore, right? You have to make it easier for attacking teams. And with them having that in mind, I'm all for it. I wonder if did they show anything they were going to do with A at all?
Not yet. I don't think so. I don't think they teased anything.
They want to eliminate some. They want to eliminate some of the deep corners. I mean, the cats are feeling neglected right now because
the cat, the baby. It's a busy man.
Hey, before we get too far ahead, let's circle back to a couple of things as well in the competitive side of things, because I think there's some really big changes now that, you know, above Immortal, you have to solo or duo only. You cannot 5-stack there. What does that really do for the experience of so many of these players? Because I know a lot of them were sitting in extremely high queues, like 10s.
I think Tense was one of them. Even I think David P was one of them as well. I think he even tweeted out and put screenshots that he had queues of 2 hours before he actually got a game, especially when it's a 5-stack Radiant. So I think that's the reason why. And when you're looking at it, the leaderboard only has the top 500 right in Radiant, which means the number of players in that base is probably not as big, especially if it's separated in different regions. So I think now that you're forcing duo and solo queues, it allows for more matches and less waiting time, especially for content creators or pros that are streaming on their own streams. Then they have more content, be able to play games instead of watching YouTube clips with the chat, which is fun because people, you know, there's some personal, you could be personal with your chat, but at the same time, the chat wants to watch you play or watch you lose at the same time, right? So I think that is really great, and it also eliminates the fact that, or at least for me, I believe that it would eliminate more Smurfs into the higher ranks, which allows the plebs like us to really play at our actual ranks and then move up.
Yes, because I am definitely I am a higher rank than gold. That's right, Vansilli. You tell everybody. I am better than that. The system is keep me down, bro.
But to play devil's advocate on anybody that ever thinks negatively about this change, I mean, think about the fun that it's gonna bring to the game. I mean, think about just the content side of things. And that's just gonna have a 5-stack depth squad that could just eliminate any type of competition that's full of pros, right? You're gonna have these mixes of just these wingmen just entering the queue together, and we don't know what teams are gonna be on. And to get that type of variation on the game like this is it's just gonna be fun. It's like I love it. I'm thinking about the streaming. I'm thinking about the content, the games that's going to be played. I'm all for it.
Even a mix of that with the leaderboard that's live and that currently exists. I think for players, they were looking for opportunities. The players that are playing in ranked, trying to find opportunities where they could actually get noticed by organizations or pros and stuff like that too. Ooh. I think that could actually mesh in very well too, because now you're gonna have to queue with a Radiant that maybe you've never played with before. You could figure out if it's a young and up and coming player, that has the communication, that has the skills, and that has the mentality to be a top player for your organization. I think this is a great way to get scouted too.
I mean, why are people making this complicated? Just shave your eyebrows on stream. And then it's straight to the top. Hey, obviously, one more thing on the competitive side. There was a hint, there's definitely talk about, the competitive team was talking about they really want to create opportunities where it makes sense to group up with 5 of your friends and play, right?
Yes.
I think that the phrasing, give them a slice of the game or a slice of the experience. So it was hinted that we'd see something like a integrated short form tournament structure, kind of like Clash that we have in League of Legends. Have you guys played Clash in League before?
No, but this was in Call of Duty, man, a long time ago. I loved it.
Dude, I have done this a couple times in League. To be fair, I get marinated in the top lane by sweaty like Aatrox mains, but it's so fun to on a Sunday like sit down with my group. We like scout out the enemy team. We see like what they play. We like ban like there's certain heroes, and then you get in. You're playing like a 3-game single elimination bracket, right? So much fun because the stakes are there. You're playing with your friends. It does. I found that the game's done a pretty good job of sort of balancing the experience, but that's something that whole companies exist because games don't have integrated tournament structures. Like that's what tournament organizers do, right? And I don't think it's going to put them out of business, but it's a fantastic way to get a completely different experience of the game. It's nothing like solo queuing or playing ranked. You know what I mean? It's a whole different kettle of fish, and I'm really excited if we actually see that get involved. That is huge.
Hell yeah.
I think it's pretty cool. Definitely.
So it does a few things for me, right? Number one, it raises the level of competition because now we're gonna have 5-on-5s, like full ass motherfucking teams playing against each other. Like there's a lot on the line. There's pride and everything, ego. But not only that, but then you're not gonna have that 5-stack hub stomping. Think about that. That creates such a better environment all around for Valorant, man.
Yeah. I think it's pretty cool. I think my only fear into that one is literally when I was talking about less Smurfs. Hopefully, we're not going to get Smurfs playing with their friends in the lower ranks into these type of tournaments. And I think when we're looking at these events that currently exist, I mean, as you mentioned, Overwatch has it. I think Veli Siege had it at some point with like the Gold 4s and stuff like that, right? And I think it's nice that Valorant would have it. And I think for prizes that you could have is maybe like Radiant points or maybe even just enough points to get the skin of the gun that you want. Because I spent enough money in the game, and I just bought the battle pass as it just came out, but I can't spend so much more on skins anymore. I need to win tournaments to try to win some skins.
Yeah, exactly. We need hey Pulse, how about you all pay? Get some skins.
I forgot all about
that, you bastards.
New year, new page. Money. Fuck it.
Anyway, so. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how that all comes out in the wash. And yeah, it was also mentioned as well that specific action is trying to be taken against Smurfs. I don't know what that's going to do. Like, in Korea, for example, your account is tied to your social security number. Now, that is extremely invasive, and that requires a government structure and like society that allows it. People literally like face criminal charges for like max switching. They can't escape their accounts. There's like accountability attached to their in-game
Still a good
account.
thing about it, right? There's a pro to it.
There are, look, some might say, it's a little bit Orwellian, but that's that annoying guy in all your lectures that keeps asking questions even though he knows the answer just to show that he knows what he's talking about.
That's intense.
So, yeah, there you have it. But let's talk about another of the mechanical changes to the game, because obviously a big complaint of people's has been running and jumping accuracy for certain weapons. I think Tens just, ran around deathmatch with a Phantom, I think at one point, just to illustrate how powerful it was. The classic right click is brutal. And this is Nitro obviously is saying something about it. This is Max Grossman. So I think we heard from him in the live stream yesterday.
Correct.
and they're looking to make some changes to that. And I think we have kind of already seen, actually, with today's patch notes dropping, that is true.
He mentioned it on the stream that the jumping classic for the right clicks is definitely changed in a new patch now. But when it comes into the running and gunning, they're still investigating it, which is not going to be an immediate change, but that will happen later on in the year. Who knows how long, but it's definitely being investigated. Right now, I think it's cool about the jump right click classic. I think it's like we've seen a lot of matches and a lot of just bunny hopping and some crazy stuff that happens during these pistol rounds that already with a match that's down to 13 rounds or 12 rounds a half, to remove that RNG in terms of the jumping classic, I think is going to make the game a little bit more competitive in that sense and make that pistol round count a little bit more for the team. But my fear as well is, yes, we talk about the jumping right click for the classic, but I think it's a jumping for anything too. I think a jumping right click for a Bucky could definitely be something to look out for. A jumping Judge, a jumping Guardian, anything that's a jumping one click is still very, very precise. So they have to look into those guns as well.
Yeah, and we'll get to dive a little bit deeper into like the specific changes, because we will have a segment later today about the patch notes.
I got excited. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Well, we'll get there. I mean, this is a ranting show. We've been selected because we like talking and going on tirades. It's kind of
and long-winded answers. Yeah, pretty much.
Let's talk about Battle Pass. Obviously, for us, maybe we're more concerned about the competitive systems in the game, but we do like our cosmetics. I mean, Vansilli's already mentioned that he's gone broke just trying to buy the skins. So we see heroes in other games, excuse me, have agent skins. Before we get on the Battle Pass, we can talk about this. It was talked about on the live stream that, don't hold your breath for agent skins in Valorant. What are our thoughts about this?
So I actually made a tweet a week ago, and I said, yo, like, think about how fucking crazy we're going right now off these weapon skins. Like, yo, the Christmas skin is amazing, where you rip off the dart gun, where you just rip off the different colors.
The weapon.
Yeah.
You know how much I just scroll my mouse wheel just to keep on doing it. But I said the fact that these are so high quality. Imagine when we get to the point where they start creating character skins. That's going to be insane. And then not only that, but thinking the next level. All right, think about the money they're making off of gun skins right now. Think about when they start doing it, if they start doing it for orbs.
Sure.
It's over. Like, they're going to be swimming in money, and we know it's going to be nothing less than quality. I would buy a 100 Thieves skin ASAP.
Exactly. I think for the sheer fact that you already have a big fan base of fans that follow these teams and organizations already when the game just came out. I think not only skins on the guns, as we kind of see already with Rainbow Six here, Veli, but I think in Rainbow Six, they also do it for player agents. And I don't know if you guys remember whenever they announced a Team Liquid roster with the white and blue Liquid skins that they had for the agents to announce that roster. Yeah. That was fucking beautiful. So to be able to do that once you probably get into the point where you want to franchise the league, you want to franchise your teams and organizations into there, and you want your fan base to continue and follow up and grow with your team, to be able to buy like let's say an Omen 100 Thieves skin because Nitro is your favorite player. That's really cool to have. I mean, you're immortalized in that game too.
Yeah. I mean, you guys have seen the World Championship skins for League of Legends, right? The SKT. My favorite is Samsung White Thresh. He looks like he actually he's wearing a jacket that looks like Phoenix's actually, but those skins do so well in League of Legends. But let me ask you this.
Okay.
Do these skins, especially the more elaborate variants on skins, have an impact on the balance? Is there competitive ramifications for different agent skins?
You're right. I mean, now, Veli, I'm going to let you take this because there has been some controversy around some skins that people use in pro play for Rainbow Six that had to be banned overall.
All right, so this is a great conversation, but like different context, right? So in Valorant, you have a character outline that's very vibrant. It is vibrant. You can see it. Rainbow Six, you don't have that, and there's a lot of clutter on the map. So we wound up banning every skin except the Pro League set and the default skin because you just couldn't see the motherfuckers, right? It was really difficult. So the thing is, that won't be a problem in Valorant. The maps are clean. The outline's very bright. You can see them. I can see it being in use immediately. And you know what? It's going to be really colorful, big and wonky. So I don't think it's going to be an issue. If anything, it's going to be more of a detriment for the player if it sticks out more than the other skins.
And now that Veli mentions this, this also brings in another point. Then when the skins came out already for Valorant, I think whenever it's somebody else that's wielding, like your opponents are wielding the skin and stuff like that too, you see it as a default until the gun is dropped, and then when you pick it up, you see the cosmetics.
Yep.
So I think Riot already has that technology to be able to say, look, if I as a fan want to wear my Nitro 100 Thieves skin, but the opponents could turn off that feature, or the opponents don't see it, and that's totally fine too, right? I mean, you're able to support your team, you're able to support your player, but it doesn't break the game in terms of one player being too bright or a different tone that could mask themselves into the server or into the match. So I think they already have that right formula there. And all they need now is to make sure they put the money in, or start capitalizing on the money for that potential.
I want to pose this to you as well. There's a difference between a skin that is a recolor and a skin that is a slight tweak or redesign of the mesh of the actual skin model, right? Coming from Overwatch, there are some skins that look, the silhouette of the skin is different, and this impacts how the player reads the hitbox or where the vital spots are, right? I mean, in Overwatch, you can kind of just, and you're probably going to hit someone in the head with Hanzo at some point anyway, but for example, there are some, there are definitely some like Reinhardt skins, Zenyatta as well, whose silhouette looks legitimately different from the base skin. And a lot of people have said like, it's hard for me to ascertain actually where the hitbox is. In Valorant, the part of the body you're shooting someone in is way more important. In Overwatch, it's head or not head. In Valorant, it's like, is it leg, torso, arm, head? Like, you know, it makes a big difference. So, you know, some of the best skins that I've seen have been changes into the mesh. Like the actual model looks different, right? It's like his shoulder pads look way bigger, or his quiff is just looking like Joey Wheeler from Yu-Gi-Oh! or whatever. So, you know, that there's a question of that as well. And the problem is that if you see your opponent, you don't see that skin, but they're wearing a certain skin, that could be like a mismatch issue if the models are actually different, right? You know, between client and server side. So something to bear in mind there. But
integrity.
If not, like, what if the observer client, whenever you're gonna have the Heather and the Prius and the V Flight and the Yeti that are gonna watch these matches, and you're watching it as a fan from the point of view of just Twitch, and you're able to see these variants, I think that's gonna be pretty cool too.
Yeah, in Valorant, the issue, I mean, I want to ask Heather this later on, but it seems like the issue is less visual clutter and more how quickly things happen, and being able to catch all the action from like an optimal angle. So maybe the skins don't sort of mess it up too much. But also mention as well, those that love certain skin bundles, right? Like maybe you missed the Ion skins, or you didn't get the only ones because something wrong with you. It was sort of hinted by the premium content team that there's a chance to go back and purchase maybe these skins at a discount. I mean, what was crazy to me, guys, is that we heard that they were just thinking at some point to never return certain skin bundles to the store. And what I love is that the premium content team has now conditioned the player base to think it's reasonable to pay so much for these skin bundles. Like people are like, okay, you know, there's so much outcry early on about how much these skins cost, right? From pro players, you know, key industry pundits, maybe me. Actually, no, I was just buying them. I wasn't complaining. I just wanted them.
Same here.
You know, now people are just like, oh yeah, $50 seems legit. Bam, just spank the money out. So they're in a great position. But
must be nice to be rich,
dude.
I mean,
I had no issues buying the skins until now in 2021. I don't know what my next event is, so now I'm starting to realize that, you know, you got to be careful. And then you got some people that don't pay too, so then you got to pay attention to that as well.
Yes.
And then rethink about it, you know. But honestly, like they already have a bundle that came out on those retro skins, right? I think it was like the Oni and like amongst others that I saw today. But the thing is, I already own 2 of those skins. So if I already own 2 of those skins, would the bundle be even less expensive? Is that accounted for?
It will be, yes. It does get discounted for own skins. I noticed that because when I bought, I think at first I just bought the Oni Phantom on its own, or I don't know how. And then I saw that the bundle was discounted, so I think that's often the case. But
okay,
I think it's up to 33% as well, which is fantastic, man. What? I'm a bargain shopper. So
buy now, 33% off your cosmetics and gaming haul.
That's crazy.
I mean, considering they weren't thinking of bringing them back in the first place, I think this is great. I think that, you know, they could make ridiculous bang from returning. Like they could make an event out of returning really, really popular skins to the store, because players are going to keep jumping into Valorant, and they're going to see these players with these skins and realize they can't get them. They've locked down this exclusivity hype beast kind of idea with these skins, right? Well, you just can't get them, and bad luck if you don't have them. So I'd be interested to see how they try and leverage that.
Honestly, man, I think this announcement of the bundle today, for example, is just a way to mask that the night market failed. and then they
Yep.
just like, hey, let's try this new way of selling the
Okay.
skins, and they put out this. Yo, look into your
Okay,
game
I'm
right
good with
now.
this.
Look into your game right now, Veli, and try to see if the night market exists. It does not exist right now. I cannot click the. I was gonna stream later on and say, hey, let's see what guns I have for the night market. It wasn't there.
I stopped clicking that bullshit, man, because I started getting the same. I started getting the same skins, and it was the ones I didn't want. And like, I actually saved my money and my time to purchase skins. And when I heard the night market, I'm like, yes, my cheap ass is gonna prosper. And then it was like, no, this is everything I don't want, and it's not changing. Get it off.
Yeah,
So,
they
I hope
reset it
they
like every
rework
2 weeks or so.
The idea, though, the idea is so cool. It's kind of like Destiny.
Yeah, but you're kind of but you're locked into what you get, right? So like
You
the
are.
problem with it is that like I know, and you know what I hate about it is like you get the night market right, and it does the
Mhm.
animation where it shows up all the stuff that you get.
It's actually
And
pretty
then
fucking cool.
the
that-
next
I like that.
day, it's still highlighted, right? So if you haven't bought anything, it still flashes at you. So like, oh, a new night market, click it. No, it's still the
Nope,
same fucking
same
convex and prism skins that
So
you don't want.
disappointing.
I'm like,
Listen, for a Radiant player that has to queue
Over.
for like an hour, maybe sometimes you just re-click it for fun and you know, for content. But yeah, I think it was you know
So
what, it doesn't exist.
disappointing.
Hopefully it's not gone forever. Maybe they revamp it to something different for later on in the episode. But I like the fact that you're putting the bundle instead of the night market now, and maybe change those every 2 weeks or so.
We work
Let's,
the night market.
Yeah, so we'll see what they do with that. They have the same thing in League, by the way. It just doesn't never bothered me as much as Valorant. I don't know why, maybe because they were cheaper. But let's put a button on this segment by obviously talking about the esports part of that segment, right? So we heard from Casper Jafruti, who obviously is in charge of the sort of the esports side of things right now over at Valorant. Great guy, really lovely, soft-spoken individual. Part of spoke to him about sort of the championship tour, of course, and about challenges kicking off. So quickly, for those that don't know, like what's challenges? How does it relate to Champions Tour? Vansilli, do you want to just keep everybody updated about what this means?
Yeah,
What is
so
challenges.
So challengers is going to be the segment where any team could actually just join in and start playing, and then winning challengers or getting to a certain ranking in the challengers will qualify you into the masters, where the masters probably already has a couple of invited teams into there to hopefully bring you into the champions tour that has hopefully by then a global stage.
That's just insane. It's here already, man.
Dude.
That's around the corner. February 3rd?
Yep.
Come on.
Yeah.
But
For
then the
NA,
craziest
it's gonna be
part,
pretty
like,
dope.
For NA is going to be the best, obviously, right? But taking a look at like Brazil and everyone else starting earlier, like that's going to be such a great warm up to like build up that hype and excitement. I'm excited to watch Brazil. I have not watched a Brazil event from beginning to end yet.
I mean, I love that Japan is getting involved in this. Obviously, Japan is always been more of a console country. And we saw a little bit of them sort of showing up in Overwatch early on. And there's actually a Japanese national playing in the Overwatch League on one of the teams right now, which is great. But I'd love to see how that comes out. Obviously, I still want to see what's going on in Korea. Like, what have Vision Strikers been working on in this break? Because you best believe they've been coming up with some crazy stuff. And, you know, I heard from Hayes a few weeks ago on a podcast. He was saying, you know, like, if people aren't watching Vision Strikers and these teams,
You're behind.
Yep, they are behind. They are doing it absolutely wrong. So can't wait for that. That is happening already. And I kind of like the idea they mentioned about watchability for viewers. Obviously, so hectic, right? That's something that I think we heard from Heather when she talked about you know, observing in an interview recently. It's like there's just a lot of things happening, and game state changes on a dime because time to kill so low. So they're looking to improve on the HUD that we had at First Strike. Now, for me, casting Valorant, one of the hardest things is actually knowing you don't always know what player's playing what agent based on what you see in the basic sort of HUD. You need to know that Dicey is a Jet player to be able to link that together. So this was handy for me as someone who's starting to you know, pick up Valorant casting. You can hire me, by the way. So we'll see. I mean, what do you want to see more from this kind of HUD? Because I liked the visual elements of the health here.
Definitely. I think the health, if I could start here, Veli, is fine. I don't really mind about showing if they have how much shield they have or how much health, but the most important part, I think even some of the pros were mentioning it before when they were trying to do some VOD reviews, is trying to figure out where they are in the ult points. So that how close they are into building up their ultimate. So then you know if a team's going to start swinging into an opposite section of the map and pressure that first, and then even as an observer, you could keep that in mind so that you could actually say, oh, they might fight for the orb on A side of split as we see right now, and then she could actually, or Heather or Prius or whoever else could actually start looking at for example, I don't know, Asuna that's looking for an orb. It's not going to be the case because you get to kill for it, but
yeah,
you know what I mean.
No, I definitely do. So, other than like for newcomers, you're not going to know who's going to be on who unless you're consistently slapping your eyeballs around the screen, right? I think the coolest thing they can add to the HUD. So, the signature abilities when it's gone. And I was doing this for Vansilli's analyst segment later on. This is it's really cool, guys. So when the signature ability is used, it's all great, right? How
Hmm.
about, especially for casters, it helps out big time. Oh, sorry, I was
Hmm.
staring. My face is all up in the webcam. So the grayed out box for the signature ability. How about it's like as a timer, you see it slowly light back up, so the
Hmm.
casters know when that fault line is coming back. They know when that extra dash from Jet is coming back. I think that'd be a really cool feature they can add.
Hmm.
Yep. I mean, showing the abilities there is obviously a huge bonus, but knowing how far away, because people do play around those cooldowns, like dark covers cooldown, we see people play around and such like that. So
Yeah.
we'll see what they can do. Again, when I first started casting Overwatch, there was no HUD, no kill feed, no ultimate tracking, no nothing.
That was
I knew when
fun.
people had
Must
ults
have
or
been
didn't have
fun.
ults. So yeah, but I got good because I had the casting. It was a handicap. So those that
Yeah.
are casting Valorant right now, be glad, because you have to do a lot more work. So when all these
Mhm.
things get added in later, you'll have the time to think about, saying funny things. You know what I
Lucky
mean? Or
you.
just like, so this is like the
Lucky you.
hyperbolic time chamber of Valorant casting right now. So make the most of it. Get those weighted things on, and then get out and challenge Margin Boo and save the world.
That's
So
it.
Yes.
that's it. We talked a little bit about like the overall stuff we saw on the live stream, right? Today the patch notes drop. It's a big deal. Episode 2 with some huge changes. Let's jump into these a little bit more now and start talking through them. The patch notes are available to all of you. Playvalorant.com. You can actually find that from the website. You can navigate to that pretty comfortably. Where are our big standouts here, I guess, because that
Right
at a
there.
glance we see Omen and Brimstone get changed.
Hmm. Hmm. I think when you're looking at it now, of course, Yoru is going to be the biggest one with the agent being dropped, but I'm sure we can talk about it later once Heather hops on with us in the portion that we literally talk about Yoru in details. But I think we could pause here and start talking about the new agents here for Brimstone and for Omen. So Brimstone already seeing the stim beacon. Okay, it's a quick cast, not a big deal, but I think
It's like Cyber Cage now, basically.
yeah, exactly. But I think the most important part for Brim, and it's a buff for them, is the sky smokes. So having the range being increased. So I think from 4,200 to 5,000, I haven't had a chance to test it yet, but I think it's, let's say, when the barrier is down on a split again, let's use that for an example, and then
Okay.
you're trying to smoke towards heaven, but you're also trying to smoke screens. Your iPad doesn't get to the point where screens is, so you have to always run a little bit further up to drop the second smoke. So when you want to have some more immediate quick executions, having Brimstone now with that range helps a lot. The molly being cheaper, I think it's great because you already have some great set mollies that you can use with Brimstone. But I think the most, and I think Brimstone overall as an agent is still very good because the orbital strike is still a very great ultimate in the game. So to be able to get these buffs and to try to get Brimstone getting picked more, I think it's a great thing. We could talk about, I could let you talk about Omen here, Veli, and we could do a comparison of both. But I think Brimstone actually has some nice changes into this right now. Last but not least, I think this is great. The fact that it doesn't make any noise when you're actually setting down your smokes. So if you're around the corner as a defender and you hear Brimstone starting to tap on his iPad to drop some smokes. Yeah, exactly. Because he doesn't have his gun out. Now, my question is, does it still make a sound when he's actually pulling out his iPad? Because right now it says it doesn't make a sound when you're confirming the locations of the smokes.
Yeah,
What
I think
when he
that's the
pulls it out?
iPad. That has to be it.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's both.
I mean,
Hopefully it's both.
we can test that. Also, hello, that's more than the 33% increase in duration of the smokes.
That's
already
crazy.
15 seconds long. A lot of people, I think a lot of players were asking for maybe the smokes to be increased in size, but in duration, that is still a big deal. You can still
100%.
carry 3 of them. The biggest complaint that I heard from people, I think Mame was saying, is that as Brimstone, if I want to smoke mid on split, for example, I kind of have to play in mid.
Yeah.
I don't want to play in mid as Brimstone. He's kind of bad. I'd rather be somewhere else. Now that you can take a deep line on Brimstone and still be able to smoke the rest of the map. Like, there is no reason for Brimstone, the King Boomer, the Lord of the Smokes, to have less flexibility than Omen when it comes to placing. Like, Omen can, generally put his smokes anywhere he needs to. So I think that's a big change. Definitely feel like that's there's a reason for him to be brought back in a bit more. But Veli,
Yeah.
what about Omen? What about these changes to Omen?
So Omen, in my opinion, was the scariest player in the lineup. And why is that? Omen could literally do it all. Take a look at how Mummy plays, right? Now, the paranoia, you have to increase that. That is by far, in my opinion, outside of Sky, the best flash in the game. goes through walls, it hits everybody in that angle, and
It's a
it lasts
bust.
for a pretty right. It was busted, right? But the dark cover, that is insane. Now, Omen he's used for a lot of fakes. Now, if you send a smoke mid or just to block off some corridor somewhere else to fake a push, it's gonna take a while now. It's gonna take a long time. People are gonna have to react on that. And we all know every second in Valorant counts, right? But also the paranoia getting a big increase in cost as well.
Yeah.
That is nuts. Omen is no longer Mr. Do It All, in my opinion, and that balances. So when it comes to balance, there's going to be people that are obviously upset, the diehard Omen mains, but there's something you have to consider. And I was real thankful when I saw the nerfs coming to Killjoy, the Cypher, because in the long run, if everybody's too strong, then you just mess up all the balancing right there. You're gonna have to dumb these players down. Viper as well, Uber. They're trying to patch her.
Yeah.
I think Baby Girl just needs a full rework. There's nothing you can do with Viper right now. Everyone has tried. Shout out to We Did. But there's
And
nothing
Poach.
to do. Yeah,
There's
right.
like the only two.
There's nothing you can do. I saw, somebody in Europe during first strike,
Yeah.
popping, something across the map on bind to stop the post plant. But it's like outside of that one highlight play, no one wants to pick her, man. So
Yeah.
I like the fact that they are still looking at how to fix that. But overall, Brim, I see him as a really good defensive player. You take a look at Omen. I don't think he's going to be a staple in a lot of lineups anymore, especially with Yoru coming out. Viper, I hope they change one of her abilities. I mean, flat out change, because I don't see anything they could do with her abilities to make her better.
Very quickly, just circling back to the Omen idea as well. I
Yeah,
just want to put this out there that Omen's dark cover change is very similar to Sage's barrier wall change, right? Now you have to use your smokes proactively. You cannot use them reactively. Like if you're playing mid on split and they're pushing A hard, you can't just go, oh, I guess I'm just going to smoke A man and force them into heaven. You don't have the time for that. It travels too slow. So now it's more about setting up than responding to pushes. So I like the idea that these controllers are being forced into a position where they need to think ahead. They need to set up a play in advance. Instead of just like, you gotta smoke, and I'm gonna slow down this push, right? Things like mollies and stuff like that. That's where, and maybe this makes Viper better as well, like her sort of molly. Now that's what you want to use mollies for, to really mess up pushes. If you're getting easy smokes dropping in on teams that are trying to advance, then maybe that's a little bit too powerful. Also, the Omen changes might make Brim a little bit more viable as well, because they bring him a little bit more in line.
The Omen change slows down the game a lot too. Think about how many rushes are initiated just with Omen just sitting in the back, cover, like doing all that. Speed of the game is going to drastically change.
I agree with both of you guys. That's actually what I wanted to bring up too. I think the fact that if it was only the paranoia that went up and increased by 200 credits and it was 400 credits, I think some teams would still want to use Omen no matter what, because it's still such a powerful flash. When it comes down to the smokes, though, for it to be decreased by 30%, that's where I think it's a good change to maybe have Omen being picked less. Overall, is it gonna break Omen where he's not going to be picked anymore? I don't think so.
No.
Just as Mitch was saying before, if I was playing A defense on Omen and I have to rotate to B because the hit is there, and then I throw a dark cover into hookah as I go, now it's going to be a lot slower. So you have to really be proactive on that. I think another part is if I'm playing Ascent on mid on the attacker side, how many times does Omen smoke the archway on mid? And if they do it from the back of the A side, it's going to be further. So I think there's ways to like theory craft as an in-game leader too, is being like, if that smoke pops up immediately or very close to the round starting, you know that Omen is probably playing from B link at that time because they want the smoke to come out faster, right? So that as a defender you could actually now know that they're starting to go for like a mid control and stuff like that too. So there's a lot of theory crafting at that. I don't think it's going to make Omen where he's not going to be picked at all anymore, but definitely it might give more chances for Brimstone for sure.
Beautiful nerf.
Just to button up this segment as well, obviously changes to the classic are listed in the patch notes today. The jumping error is increased, crucially. Also, the firing consecutively also now really makes that error increase vastly more. This might make the Ghost a bit more of a viable option, but overall, the point is to try and put the classic back in a bit more of a niche spot, right? Instead of it just being pretty damn good at everything, just really robust. A lot of pro players have been like, well, I can't wait till the Ghost is really good. Obviously a weapon that really sort of benefits you if you're taking your time and taking sort of one taps and just trying to relocate in between shots. So we'll see how that affects the game, and maybe put players in a position where they do need to consider whether they get that armor or they go for the Ghost to have better stopping power. Either way, pretty hard to
Mm.
see that being a negative change. On the topic here, obviously, of the changes now that are being made to Valorant, and of course, some improvements are being made, there are definitely some players, some pro players from other scenes eyeing off Valorant as a prospect to make their move in there. Now, I might know a little bit about that as someone who sort of has watched Valorant with a keen interest and decided to get involved, obviously, because I'm here. What's up, fam?
Sounds good.
We know that we've Get Right has been teasing a lot, and he's
Love
been a
it.
bit more explicit, obviously, that he is looking at Valorant as a sort of legitimate move. We also know that Automatic has tweeted about that, or at least sort of, I mean,
Hinting, maybe.
he sub-tweeted the fact that Valorant is maybe in his crosshairs. He said, for now, I'm checking out I'm staying with CSGO, but I'm looking at my options. Then he tweeted some nonsense like, expect the unexpected. But Vanity as well, obviously, you know him from Chaos. He definitely, and we've already seen Vanity move into Valorant here with a good start. So, I mean, first of all, what's our take on Vanity, and how has he looked so far?
So honestly, for me, we've seen him streaming and stuff like that too. I think he's already there. He's already playing with Curry as well. That has had his stint over in CS:GO. They're playing a lot of rank together. This is his clip, of course, in his days of CS:GO. But I think he's very, very good. He's already ranked for Beast Coast for Complexity, but unfortunately, we didn't have a chance to watch any of the Beast Coast matches because I don't think they were streamed. So they dropped early, unfortunately. But hopefully, we're going to get more chances later on to see how Vanity plays in Valorant as a team. Overall, when you're looking at other players like Chaos and stuff like that too, like Infinite's one of them, right? Infinite went over to NRG. Right. He's already had his start with NRG 2, playing as Killjoy. So a lot of these pros, and even Daps was still not a washed up pro, and he made the switch over to Valorant. Nitro's another one that's a pro that still hasn't reached his max potential and switched over to Valorant. So I think, Leaf, there's a lot of those that I think it's really cool that they're making a switch into Valorant, and it's going to continue to grow the competitive scene of NA for this game.
It's insane. There's still a lot more players that want to switch over, but they're just waiting for the right moment. I know pro players in multiple games that just grind Valorant nonstop, and it's not just to jump ship. It's simply for the fact that you take a look at Valorant, and even as a European, like you take a look at what's happening in EU Valorant, and you know, Uber and Vansilli, y'all looked at me special the last time I said this. Okay, like I feel like there is still so much more up for grabs in some of these regions. You're going to see a lot more big names, a lot of notable names are going to switch over because, you know, you take a look at Europe and you're like, oh, you have G2 and FPX and, you know, these other teams that have upset them. we can rock their shit, right? They're going to jump in. You take a look at NA Valorant. It is a fucking party in NA. Everybody wants to be a part of it.
I was still trying to figure out what was happening in EU, especially as you were mentioning before, Uber, about Get Right making a switch over to Valorant, and even Dimasic that used to play, I think, with Avantgarde during the CSGO majors back in like 2015-16 for Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken. But he's also switched over to Valorant and apparently joining a team soon. And big shout out to Yinsu Collins, Ryan Central, and to Mandeep that did a deep YouTube video about their guesses of what's happening, and the more you're watching this clip from them, you're starting to realize there's actually a lot more interest from organizations to get into Valorant in Europe right now, which is actually very good. But after watching these tweets and seeing, for example, that Flusha got benched from Fnatic, and already there are rumors within the CSGO community is that Automatic, Sunny, and Flusha want to make a team together. So imagine those three with Get Right, and then maybe even Twist.
That
eventually... that's cross-regional team.
Stop it.
Yeah. So what?
Sunny's
no. It's time for that.
So
it's time for that. In order for Valorant to become the game that it has to be, and we know Valorant pumped out $2 million like way before first strike and prize pool money. The money is going to be there, and this isn't even their full-fledged esports scene, man. The import's going to come through. They're going to come through crazier than ever. All right, I can see it now. Like it's a no-brainer, especially if this is going to be a global game.
Twist was already saying that he was going to move to Europe to continue his career. We don't know if it's Valorant. We don't know if it's CS. I'm pretty sure that was the case, right? So imagine that. So that's what I'm saying. If it's cross country like that, like and Automatic, if he wants to play with Sunny and he wants to play with Flusha and Sunny's finished, that's already going into Europe. So if they actually have those two North Americans going over there, and they make a team, and then they make a team with Get Right into Valorant. Holy shit, that's fucking amazing.
Okay.
Come on.
Yes.
Let's bring those rumor mills.
I think Europe's really sick. We talk about like maybe not being so much there. I think like if you have what G2, Heretics, FPX, Summon FC, Guild, Need More DM, Team Liquid. There is actually a ton going on over there, especially a Need More DM recently picks up Dead Fox, right?
Yeah,
Maybe
really
we
good
start to see.
teams.
Alliance is looking for our team right now. That's led the charge by Banks right now too. So that's why I'm saying there's a lot of interest into Europe to invest into Valorant now.
Yeah.
And when you're looking at Envy, that decided to, well, I mean, they already have a team now, but Envy stopped their investment in CS:GO a couple of days ago. It was announced on HLTV. So that means like maybe European teams possibly could look into the same type of route where they want to invest more into Valorant too, as they see a future maybe into the circuit of what Riot's bringing.
Hey, I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it right
Vitality
now.
too,
You still
Ryan.
got teams like NRG and Complexity that are fully invested in this scene.
Yes.
Yeah.
And who doesn't say if a G'd out squad put up to Europe and said, hey, what's going on? Your team is slacking. We're the latest and greatest. You're telling me like it's all gonna be there, man.
Belly, how do I get G'd out? How does that work? What's the process to G-ing myself out?
I mean, you already started with the shirt, Uber. I think you're on the right
Exactly.
track, bro.
The
Okay,
shirt
cool.
and the accent, you're G the fuck out over.
All right,
Max out.
sweet. All right, good to know. Put that on my resume. Okay, so yeah, we've obviously talked about a couple of these players like eyeing off moves over to Valorant now as well, and and whispers of sort of these teams being picked up. Obviously, Automatic is well known from C9. So he tweeted what did he? Okay, so first of all, he says just to clear things up, right?
Okay.
He knows people are talking about it going to Valorant, and this tweet
Okay.
is not designed to quell anybody's fears. It's quite the opposite, actually. It's like, I know you've been talking about me going to Valorant. I want you to know that I've noticed you noticing that Valorant is also a game. And I want you to keep talking about it to put pressure on the people that pay me. So I like this, and he says, hey,
That's
I want
great.
to check this out. Like, why not give it a go? Also, I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but I just want to point out that Envy suspending their investment in their Counter-Strike team is a big deal because Astro absolutely spanked money on his Overwatch League roster this year. Overwatch League, by the way, of course, which, viewership obviously hasn't exactly been going nuts for it. This guy's spending money. I mean, you could infer that he is just feeding this cash into the boiler, like just to keep this train going, right? We're in this is season 4 of the Overwatch League. He's spending huge amounts of money on player buyouts to try and be the best in that game. So it's not like this guy doesn't have ridiculous amounts of cash to just literally shoot with one of those Supreme branded cash guns. He just doesn't want to spend it in Counter-Strike. And I think that is quite an indictment of the state of that scene.
It's a money burn.
Yeah. It was probably the reason why he wanted to invest less into CS so he could put it into Overwatch, because he already has great success with his Valorant team. So I don't see him dropping that or anything at all. So I think Valorant's going to continue to succeed for the current roster that they have, and we'll hopefully see more organizations coming into that one too. But seeing that, I think for the potential of that lineup, I'm going to bring it back, man. That rumor mill, that's going to be so awesome to follow.
that's
I'm a
gonna
new
be
fan of
so
that team
good.
already.
I don't even watch CS, and I know who the fuck Flush is. Like,
Yeah.
the moment, like, there's gonna be more squads, and like, you take a look at Liquid, like all these struggling teams. I feel like we're not even at the beginning of European Valorant yet, which makes all this talk even more exciting.
I think that, Get Right, one thing I want to make very clear about these players is that they are not going to jump into Valorant, especially someone like Automatic. They're not going to jump into Valorant for some like half-baked pug team. They are doing this a lot of the time to attract teams that have yet to step into Valorant, that want to step into Valorant, that want to build their teams around a player. Get Right does not go to Valorant to be some like half-baked support player, just throwing the utility out, just
He's gonna be a Yoru.
No one wants to be the next Scream.
He's going to be
Exactly, right? So obviously you want to generate this hype. You want to get someone like James Banks on the phone, like, yep, how much money you want to come and join my team? And that's what you want. Even if Get Right, to be fair, obviously has had really ups and downs in his career, and maybe you could argue that his peak in his career has passed him by. But there was multiple times where he's always a great interview, by the way. Get Right, incredible, obviously emotional guy, really wears his heart on his sleeve. But he said, like, I was thinking about retiring at many points throughout my career. He's come very close at times, and now obviously we saw the cinematic where he sort of drops the jersey and walks off. This guy has obviously been around for so long. I think over 3,500 days as a pro player for NIP, I think it was. So
30,000 frags.
I ask you this: if you are past your peak in Counter-Strike, or you were maybe not great in Counter-Strike,
Don't ask this question.
Why would you be great in Valorant, which is ostensibly a more complex game with the added verticality and the extra sort of ridiculousness and maybe random element of this utility? What's going to make you better in that game?
Coming.
Gotta be asked, fam.
And at the same time, you can't necessarily say that their career is done or whatnot. I think the players that we just mentioned in that rumor mill roster that I just mentioned, right? So Sunny has had a great run, but you're looking at Flusha, has been a major winner in CSGO. Automatic has been a major winner in CSGO. Get Right has been a major winner in CSGO. Yeah. Twist has been a Grand Slam winner with Liquid with the route that they had in 2019. So they are actually, if maybe not at their peak anymore, let's say for some of these players, Twist still has a lot of potential. But for some of these players, if they've not reached the peak, the amount of marketability that they have under their name is still very good to bring a new fan base into our organization. So started off, I mean, even then, you have these players that switch over to Valorant and they found new light. Look at Hiko, for example. How many people thought that he was going to be the washed up player and that it's not going to work out with the high grounds? And lol, why are you actually building a roster around Hiko with high grounds and not drop Hiko instead and stay with high grounds? Look at 100 Thieves now. They're a first strike winner. So I think there's still a lot of potential for these players switching to a new game that could revitalize just their mechanical skills that is less demanding, in my opinion, in Valorant than it is in CSGO. So just aim and shoot is something that these players still very much have.
Vansilli, we've definitely been, we've made a name for ourselves on this podcast, just having garbage takes and obviously going on long rants. But we have an opportunity here to actually increase the grey matter density of each other and our viewers. You have been out there, obviously watching plenty of these games, and obviously you take a more analytical slant towards your commentary and also the way you look at the game. You have cooked something up in the analysis kitchen for us. Yes. Serve it up, baby. Let's go.
Boy. So I wanted to try things out a little bit different here for Do Not Peek. I really love the segments that Mitchman does and that CSGO already has with Sponge. With Weatherman, exactly, Chad, with the Weatherman segment. So I wanted to cook one up here for a quick round between 100 Thieves and T1. It's their pistol round for first strike in the quarterfinal, of Haven. And although that T1 lost that pistol round, I still think that their setup was really great. So I made a clip about it, and I wanted to also emphasize where it slipped and wanted to know your thoughts. So let's go ahead and watch that. Now, to start things off, let's give some context here. We are in the pistol round between 100 Thieves and T1, which means you start with 800 credits T1 on the attacker side. Keep in mind then that you only start here with 800 credits. So with 800 credits as a Killjoy, what you could actually afford here, as you could see at the bottom of the screen, is going to be light armor, nanoswarm, and alarm bot. Braxton uses a nanoswarm to clear out the back of the C platform while T1 executes into the site. And as you see that the site is clear, Skadoodle goes for the plant, and at the same time, you see now from the point of view of Skadoodle that Brax is currently moving in to place an alarm bot right where the spike is. As we fast forward a bit into the round, you'll notice now that we have a 3-on-2 situation in favor of T1. And T1, although low on HP, are still in a great position to win this round because of the position that they currently have on this minimap, playing on the outside of the map at Long C to cover the spike. One thing that's important is that you'll notice in this X-ray is that Daze is actually facing the wall. The reason why is because he actually has set darts, shock darts, that's going to bounce off the wall and land right onto the spike. The most important detail to pay attention to, though, is where Brax currently is positioned. He's actually positioned outside of the radius of where the alarm bot is currently in range for it to be activated, so that he gives the impression that the alarm bot is not going to be a threat to Hiko or Nitro trying to come back into the site. And the reason why they do that, in my opinion, I could be overanalyzing this, but is when you're actually walking into this area and it actually doesn't ring, you don't think it's a threat, so you're actually not going to shoot it. So when the defender is actually going to smoke towards the front of the site, or if there's another smoke from Nitro, if it recharges and he smokes towards the defuse, then Brax could actually start walking into the radius, and as soon as he walks into the radius, it's going to activate the alarm bot. Now, this could trigger two scenarios. The first scenario at this point is that the alarm bot gets triggered, it gets shot, and then you already have an idea that they are already off the spike. So Daze doesn't have to shoot the first dart right away. Or the other combination would be if somebody went onto the spike and they actually held it to at least get it at halfway. When Brax walks into range and it activates the alarm bot, you're already going to receive double damage as the diffuser. So when you actually eat a shock dart on the spot without an alarm bot, a debuff, it actually hits for 90. But when you actually get hit by a shock dart with the combination of an alarm bot, it actually hits for 180, which means that it would actually one-shot Hiko or a one-shot Nitro should they try to stick onto the spike. So the reason why this actually fails for T1 is because Brax was so sure that he was going to be able to kill Hiko as soon as his smoke dissipates that he kept shooting where Nitro just swung out and killed him instead. In hindsight, you probably would have wanted Brax to play in a position where he's not going to be threatened by any type of pressure coming in from long C. So all he would need to do is walk into the radius of the alarm bot, and overall, T1 would trust that the shock darts from Daze would actually hit Hiko on a one-shot. And if it's not the case that it kills him, at least they know that he's off the spike, and they could play the time into their favor to hopefully win the pistol versus 100 Thieves.
It made a lot of sense.
It's there's so much to it, right? And like, I noticed there as an analyst, you can't really assume that you know exactly what's going on in the player's head. But I want to know from you what your thoughts are. Or maybe Veli can help here. Is that why do you think Brax doesn't just rely on the fact that he has an alarm bot on the site? Why do you think he takes a challenge there?
So that's what I mentioned. You saw that the smoke dissipated right away, and that Hiko was already sticking on the spike. And by then, Nitro didn't white swing yet. Right? So when Brax peeks forward and he's like, I have an open shot on Hiko no matter what, I could try to tap him and hopefully shoot him in the face long range, 2 taps to the face, you're dead. But by that timing of the frenzy that comes out from Nitro to body block the shots and to headshot Brax long range, it was a slip on Brax's side more than anything else.
You know, I look at that round in particular as like a running domino effect, right? Because let's be completely honest. So let's take a look at the setup. If I remember correctly, you have Skadoodle. He's going to be on site with Spider. Spider is going to be near that green box by long whatever. Skadoodle, he's going to be at default box. Now, with that, when that was happening, they're really Skadoodle. He's roaming. He's not really looking at one particular area. So that leaves CT wide open, right? So that right there was already an L on T1 spot. Still, he jumped in. He was able to tag him and bag him. I think he tagged Spider, kills Skadoodle. Yeah, let's go ahead and watch it again. So that was the entry kill. The thing was, once Skadoodle died, that leaves Spider in an area where he can get peeked from 3 different angles, and that happened exactly because Spider's a god. And, you know, the fact that Vansilli, he co-signed for him so damn hard in first strike, and he went off. He got the 2K. He made this round almost possible. Correct. But coming in from Garage was the other Omen player that got the kill. It was definitely Nitro that got the kill. Yeah. So then you have 3 people on. So the one thing that I'm not going to tell a pro player what to do, because there's always different scenarios at which lengths you do things. I know this is long. I'm going to make it real quick, though. But when he used the fault line when Skadoodle got killed, that alone took away so many other options that they could have reused. Now, you take that out the equation. Why didn't 2 out of 3 people peek long at the same time? Why was it individual peaks? That's the biggest question in my eyes. I get what Sova was doing, but there was no unity on that. And because of that, Nitro was able to pop both of them and got a 2K. And then Hiko clutched out the round. It was just so much that went wrong. I actually feel bad for T1 right there.
Well, you had AZK in that Cubby of Seaside that was low on HP, and Daze was low on HP too. So trying to go for a double peek later would be detrimental on their positioning already post plant, and also was smoked on the top. So that's harder for them to fight. I think on the post plant too, to have Skadoodle and Spider there was just to try to do as much damage as they could while people were going for the retake, because you already had 3 players playing towards the back of the Seaside at long. So the 2 guys that planted and they're playing post plant close to the site, you want a crossfire to try to win those, and that's why the fault line also came in from AZK.
Yeah, I think it's insane that there's so much preset utility there.
Yeah, why use the fault line?
Well, I love that Nitro knows it's not enough for him to trade or to bait Hiko there as he defuses and try and get a kill. He has to wide peek, take shots to try and keep Hiko alive. Now that doesn't work, of course, because there's actually a shock dart connection on Hiko. But the way Nitro plays, there's no bait mentality whatsoever. He just puts himself on the line there. So great to see that is just years and years and years of experience in that particular moment. That's a transferable skill from Counter-Strike as well, understanding how to play that.
And also that's why like people were harping on Days as like, why didn't he shoot both shock darts at the same time and kind of delayed and spaced out both shock darts? I really think it's the reason why they had that play with the alarm bot. And in that heat of the moment, right? It was 9-3 here for T1. We had a really bad half for Nitro. We had a bad half for Dicey too. I think they were like a 0-6 and 0-7 at some point, being brothers here from the Owen family. And there was a lot of pressure going into that. There is a potential that they slipped onto the alarm bot, and then all Brax had to do was walk into the range. And unfortunately, because he was so confident about hitting the shots, sometimes you do make those mistakes in the heat of the moment.
Yeah, mistakes happen. But the reason why that round was the most important one on Haven, because we have to point it out,
dude,
fans, and over
100%.
The score was 3-9. T1
exactly.
T1 was on their ass, man. And once they won that round, it was a 7-round win streak.
Correct.
They took the lead just by winning that pistol. Pistol's so important. Pistol's so important, Vans. I'm so happy you brought that round up to
thank you.
To review.
And T1 only won one round out of that half too. They lost that map 13-10 in the end. So that round itself, and I even think maybe 1 or 2 rounds later, Hiko went for a full defuse on a 1v1 versus Brax to even get another round in for Haven for 100 Thieves. So it's been a lot of slip ups in that matchup, unfortunately for T1, but still great improvement from when we watched him like a month before that, because they were terrible a month before that.
They're so good now. I love T1, man.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't wait to see that rematch played out, maybe in challenges as we go forward. So that's something to keep yourself excited for. Now, just moving off topic, we're going to disengage ourselves from Cerebro, right? So you can turn the gigabrains off a little bit here.
Yeah, my brain is fried now, dude. I'm done.
How do you know you've made it, right? Is it when other commentators start wearing flowery shirts in the same way to imitate you? Is it when you get a Red Bull fridge in your room? Or is it when you start getting knockoff merch of your branding or logo? Because that's what we're seeing here. Andy Miller goes to Twitter and calls out Amazon for all these people that are sort of bootlegging esports merch and selling it.
It's so low quality. Look at the wrinkles in that fucking shirt, man. The audacity. I'm so mad.
It out, bro. It's okay.
It's so ghetto. Who does this?
In the end, should you be that mad that people are actually making knockoffs of your merch right now? Because look, first off, when you're looking at esports stores and stuff like that too, and organization stores or organizer store or team organization stores, they're still expensive pieces of gear to buy. Yep. Right. So I have to pay $40 US for a t-shirt and still pay $20 US for shipping to make it to my house. So this shirt basically cost me a whole skin bundle from Valorant, which is why I'm not buying skins anymore, because I have to pick my battles. So it's already expensive there. But the other thing is, I'm also a Montreal Canadiens fan. I'm a Raptors fan. I am a Blue Jays fan. And when I go watch sports events, I don't necessarily always buy their merch too, because that's also expensive, but I still want to support my team. So if I'm going to buy a knockoff and I go into an event, shouldn't the branding enough bring a lot of value for your future investors and stock or whatever you're going to have invested in your team, to see that you have a fan base, no matter if it's a knockoff or no matter if it's official merch, that you still have a marketable fan base? So fuck that.
Okay, that's the question. But how much of these
how much
of a team's revenue? How much of the team's revenue comes from those sales though? Because let's say that like right now in Valorant, there aren't that many huge tournaments, or rather, teams are not winning consistently in these tournaments. Let's take Envy for example, right? I'm sure that their players are pretty well salaried. We know Hastro, he rolls 20 deep, balls out of control. I mean, how much of T1 or 100 Thieves revenue actually comes from merchandise here, as opposed to tournament winnings? Like, it's a decent amount.
It's a shitload of money.
I think also in the end it comes down to what formula you're trying to work with the tournament organizers, and eventually once you're starting a franchise, to try to monetize all the advertisement rights and stuff like that too. Because let's face it, if you're a fan of the Montreal Canadiens or you're a fan of the Toronto Maple Leafs, they're not always winning either, and they cost a lot of money, and it's not people that are buying jerseys from the Montreal Canadiens that's paying it all for the salaries of the players and the organization. It's about the ad revenues. So you kind of have to build your strategy in marketing and sales around more how you're going to be able to monetize that with the tournament organizers.
I mean, I love this. Some knockoffs from other brands. Maybe this should be some consolation to these esports companies that it happens to the very best of the brand. The South, but look at they even inverted the little sort of L-shaped logo. I love that.
I honestly would probably buy a tuna. I would buy a tuna 3-hole.
Let's be real. at the-
You see them in Southeast Asia all the time, right? A lot of stores.
Exactly.
Like, I would be lying if I said I hadn't indulged myself and gone in for like a ridiculous knockoff brand just because of how
you know,
funny it was.
There's
I
a
mean,
business
let's
for that
be-
too, man.
let's be completely honest. Yeah, it's called Forever 21. Like, see, the thing is, like, let's be honest. People out there, they're gonna buy fake Gucci belts. They're gonna buy fake Versace shirts like me at Forever 21 to wear on First Strike, stuff like that, right? But at the end of the day, we're gonna spend our money on the real shit. They're gonna get our money either way. Those hundreds of dollars is gonna go in their pocket. So it's like, if you're complaining, it sucks. There's just no way to police it. Just drop more merch.
Yep.
Yeah.
Forehead.
And drop better merch, you know what I mean? Like, let your designers really speak. Oh, for example, like Cloud9 have a membership program called Stratus. You can actually sign up to. It's a premium sort of membership you can have with that team. We might see more teams do that in the future. Yeah. Anyway, so we've seen, a bunch of different knockoffs here. I'm sure there's going to be more to see in the future. But after the break, it is the real deal. We're going to jump into a bit of Yoru here. Of course, we're going to speak to Heather Sapphire Garozzo, who got a chance to play that particular agent and obviously has a lot of insights. Her storied experience in esports, obviously Counter-Strike and now Valorant, will definitely speak to that. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Complexity Tournament. Don't go too far. We'll be back on the other side of this break with more Valoranting. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Valoranting, the show where everything is made up and the points don't matter. I'm Mitch Leslie here, of course, of Vansilli and Veli. And if you got that reference, you're a boomer just like me. We can commiserate later on.
The best
but
show.
Now, though, I mean, we're hyped today, right? Patch notes drop, new agent in the game. And to help us sort of pass out a little bit of what to expect from Yoru, we are joined by Heather Garozzo, otherwise known as Sapphire, who's been a pillar, I guess, of the industry, involved in tax shooters so deeply for so long. Heather, so great to have you along. Thank you for joining us. And I mean, you've been getting the grips already with Yoru. We'd love to know some of your initial takes.
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having me. It's exciting to be here. I'm always tuning into the show, and yeah, it's great to be here. I'm excited to talk Yoru. I was very fortunate that I was invited to the initial, I guess you call play test this week. Didn't play as much as I could. I also work for Dignitas, and we had a bit of a massive rebrand straight in the middle of that.
Congrats on that, by the way. Congrats on that.
Back.
I love to see that.
Feels good. It feels good. So that's exciting for the Valorant community too. But yeah, I got to dabble with a little bit of Yoru here. From I love his kit, by the way. Like it's super interesting. Definitely outside of the box. When I first saw something like Fake Out, I'm like, oh, is this going to be like a decoy in CS? Where obviously in CS:GO, it's just a dead giveaway when someone's got a decoy. No one's buying it unless you got $50 at the end of the half, and you're like, might as well. But you're not buying it. Fake Out is great in that you can activate it from far away, and I love that. Like just that split second of the enemy just having to think like, oh, is that really an enemy here, or should I be over rotating? In the few game play tests I got to play, we were able to pull out a lot of fakes, and it is a Fake Out. And
is there a timer on that? Is there a timer on placing those on the ground?
When they hit the wall.
I don't think there was a timer on it. I ran pretty far away from it, and you could activate it. I think it's very similar to like Killjoy's range, and how far she can be to activate her. I don't know. I don't even play Killjoy, but the Molly type of thing. Yeah, exactly. So that was interesting.
That's pretty good then.
Yeah, and then yeah.
How did it feel? So obviously you played it a little bit. How did it feel to play against? Do you feel like you were sort of bamboozled by abilities like Fake Out, right? And the footsteps? Do you feel like you were in some positions where you're like, oh, I can't believe that I fell for that?
Yeah, definitely, embarrassingly so. Especially the ultimate dimensional drift. There obviously is an audio cue very similar to Omen when he teleports. But Omen, it's like he's either right behind you or he's not, and he's far. With dimensional drift, there's a little circle range where someone could hear you, and if you're outside that range, there's no sound cues. So there were definitely there were definitely people shooting me in the back of the head far too many times than I want to admit.
Do they at least hear you coming out of it? even if it's not in the circle.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
getting very technical here, but
I think there is a bit of an audio cue. That's right. But yeah, that I think the ultimate combined with gate crash. So gate crash is his
oh
tether.
yeah, yep,
That is like that's like my
So good.
favorite part. So you can drop a tether. Let's just say we had bind open here. You drop a tether in showers,
yeah,
and then you do dimensional drift, and you run out, and you can get all the way from showers to spawn,
yeah.
defender spawn, kill the person rotating, and immediately click your E again and tether back
That's
to showers.
crazy.
That's actually
That's
very
my
huge.
favorite part. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So this is my question, and this is for everybody too. Like, do you think that he might be a viable option over Jet? Especially the simple fact that he has a flashbang as well. That's
Yeah.
pretty intense.
Yeah,
Mhm.
honestly, I was trying to think like who does this replace on the duelist front, and um, Jet kind of seems like the one that makes the most sense. Where
Mhm.
you're scouting for information, but you can quickly get out too.
Mhm.
That yeah, I could see that.
My original thought was that Yoru could probably replace somebody like Raze on situational maps, especially again I've mentioned it before, but somebody like Sabrosa, somebody like Relics also likes to play a lot of lurk, especially on Ascent as Raze when they're always working towards that B main side. So having an agent like Yoru instead, so that Jet could continue on focusing on getting entries and getting op kills as first bloods, then she could focus on that while the other ones could continue to lurk and be the backstab. Because I think the role of the lurk for Yoru at this time too is when your teammates fully die, you also have to be the clutch player, and I think Yoru has a great kit for that as well.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that, and you've got a nice little entry there with the blind side. So yeah, there's a lot of potential with this agent. I'm actually really looking forward to Euro combined with Omen. I think
Oh
that's
gosh.
a fun little combination. Well, I don't know if anyone's gonna play Omen anymore. I know there's some nerfs today,
That's it.
which
That's it.
is sad
Mhm.
as an Omen main myself.
So how about this? This is kind of like a personal question, right, Heather? So if do you love him over a lot of other agents? That's kind of like the first part of it.
Yeah, I think so. I
You
think
think so?
so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would be your specific play style with this agent? And yeah, like that ultimately would tell me why you like this dude over a lot of other people that you're able to pick now. All these duelists.
Okay, that's a great question. So my play style, like I like to entry, but at the
Mhm.
same time, I don't want anyone else near me. Like we were talking before, like during the break, I said I like almost entirely play solo queue. My friends are either radiant or they're silver. There's nowhere in between, so I just play solo queue by myself. And when you're in ranked, like you get some questionable teammates sometimes. I
Yes.
don't want
Sure.
anyone near me. I just want to do my own thing. And I
Heather doesn't
think
like hugs.
no, no hugs, no touching anything. Um, so this kind of, I can sell my own fake with fake out. I don't have to rely on my
Mm.
teammates. I got my own flashes. I can escape easily. That's why I love Yoru. He's the agent for me.
I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like out of the box, he has a ton of utility. You being able to sell fakes, can create entries. How do you feel about there being another agent with a flash in the game? We heard from the competitive design team from Valorant. They were like, we like flashes. We think it's really important to try and, for
See,
attackers to be able to peek into some of these
Mhm.
scenarios and win. How do you feel about another Flash being here? I know there was a bit of furor about Sky having another Flash back when she was out, and here we have another one that works even differently with the
Yeah,
bounce.
and I mean this one's interesting too. Like you can't really you can't stop it like skies. Skies obviously can shoot out, and
Mhm.
there's some really quick flashes you can do, almost like pop flashes, because you've got by the time it hits a wall, you've got about 1 second until it pops, which kind
Mhm.
of gives me like CS:GO vibes again coming
Yep.
from there. Is like I can do
Yep.
these nice little pop flashes, like bounce it off the ground right around a corner, and no one's going to be able to react to that. So
Mm.
that's a super annoying when you're playing against it. But yeah, I don't know. I'm certainly not a game designer, but it would be nice to think of like other like entry mechanics,
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
instead of more flashes. But
Yeah.
again, for
Yeah.
people like me that probably not playing on a team anytime soon. I'm just playing ranked. Really, most people are playing ranked. Most people aren't playing competitive. It's nice to have your own little kit where you don't have to rely on everyone else.
Yeah.
No, I
maybe,
think
maybe the next one will use the bloody doorbell to
Yeah.
get into these sites. Who knows?
No, and I think even when we watched the developers Twitch yesterday, and there was actually some more gameplay of Yoru. One of the entries was him running up towards the A ramp of split and bouncing on the ground, so it bounces up towards the ceiling, so it doesn't affect him, and it can keep running. So I think, as you were saying, pop flashes for yourself. I think one of those could be the good thing. And talking about the kit and also being able to play test so far here, Heather. When we talk with the developers, or when we listen to the developers talk yesterday, they were saying how Yoru is probably the agent where they probably had the most fear of backlash by releasing this agent, because one, more flashes, but two, you're now adding invisibility and vulnerability at the same time too as an ultimate, and there might be some backlash as how OP he could be. But after playtesting it a couple of times in the last week, do you feel that it's as broken as or could be broken, or is a broken agent, or is he really in a good spot off the release?
Ooh, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I will say, it's kind of hard to judge in terms of like these influencers events that I was a part of. Like, it's a very mixed bag of skills. You're not necessarily grouped with people anywhere remotely close to your skill level for good or bad. So it's definitely hard to judge based on the few games I played. I think always there's going to be a little bit of imbalance, especially just because people
Yeah.
really don't know what to expect off the bat. But we look at an agent like Sky, and I don't know, she's not being used necessarily too often that I see
No.
in pro play. So it seems to be
Right.
fairly balanced there. Unlike maybe a breach when he got his
Extra
kit
flash.
improved there. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
hard to say. Right now, I think it's going to seem OP at first, just given all the confusion of noises and sounds and
True.
knowing where people are. But very similar to like Sky, like you're kind of able to catch on to it eventually.
Awesome.
Heather, sort of shifting our focus a little bit now, I don't think it's a stretch to say that you're a big part of the reason that we saw observing in Counter-Strike really level up, and we started to really revolutionize the viewing experience in no small part thanks to yourself. And it's great to have you involved in that side of things in Valorant now. You've spoken recently to sort of journalists about your experience observing Valorant. I have also, of course, I've come from CS and Overwatch. Quite a few of us come from other games, and we're adjusting to the pace and sort of the cadence of Valorant. I just want to get an overarching idea of your approach as an observer when you start working with Valorant. What feels like the biggest differences to you as opposed to Counter-Strike, or the biggest things that you had to adjust to observing this new game now?
Sure. I think one of the difficulties as first was observing using pictures of the agents.
Yo.
In Counter Strike,
Yep.
we've got 1 through 5 and 6 through 0, and it was very easy. Just your fingers know exactly how to react to the radar. This has changed obviously in the last like 2 months, I think, since first strike. But previously we had to use the portrait. So if you've got a jet on both sides, you're just your hand knows that jet is on 6, and you might just automatically just click that because you have to be really fast. We got to make split-second decisions, and oh shoot, it's supposed to be the other jet. The good news is that Riot has been fantastic about taking a lot of feedback from observers from the community to improve the observer features. And now a lot of the features are even better than exist in Counter-Strike. For example, there's something that we kind of call observer follow. And this is very similar to CSGO's interactive caster. So I can be in the game, and a producer can be thousands of miles away on a computer, and they can also be in the game. And in Counter-Strike, they select to watch the observer, the auto director, which is actually observer.
Spectator.
Yeah, and it follows the movement. Well, in Valorant, we actually have like, I don't even know, is it 12 spectator slots? I don't know how many spectator slots there are now, but the
I think it's
producer,
12, yeah.
thousands of miles away, can select any of the 10 observers in the game and follow their feed. So it gives you an opportunity for so many different angles, and it's great for remote production, which we all have to do these days. So they've done a good job there. But then, back to the actual game itself, like it's very hectic. It's very hectic. There's a lot going on. And in Counter-Strike, you need to know the maps and the angles. In Valorant, you need to know the maps and the angles and the abilities. And the abilities obviously add a very difficult layer. You have to know when ultimates are about to come up. You have to be very tuned into the audio cues of when someone's doing an ultimate. So there's a lot to think about. So it's as important as ever to play the game if you want to be observer. Play the game, know the abilities, know what to expect, and I guess the one up from that is knowing the players that you're observing too, understanding their tendencies. Stewie 2K and CS:GO is the best example of why you should know a player's habits, because he is known for running through smokes. Usually observers see smokes as walls, and no one's going to go through that. Stewie 2K goes through that, and now it's important that observers in Valorant start to understand the habits of the top players.
Awesome. And I think to continue with the observing as well, Heather, because now we have a lot of aspiring casters that are trying to get into Valorant. We have a lot of aspiring observers that are trying to get into Valorant. Shout out again to V-Flight and Yeti that's doing their work too alongside you and Prius. But as we say that we come from different backgrounds, so Overwatch, PUBG, Apex, Fortnite, Rainbow Six. How does one start as well for observers? You said playing the game and everything too, but is there some sort of guide of like the basics that they could actually follow? Because I know Prius has his DMs open, but where can you direct them for all these resources?
That's a good question. It kind of doesn't exist yet, which is a bit sad, and it's always a project I've wanted to take on. But that there should be an observer school, I guess, an observer Bible of what to do. A lot of it just comes down to practice and watching your demos back, looking at the Twitch chat to see how many tutors are in chat. That could be usually an indication if you mess something up. But
do you watch the chat?
That's the worst.
Do you actually watch Twitch chat while you're working?
I try not to. I try
That's
not
a yes.
to.
You have a resilient mental. I'm so impressed.
I was gonna say it's the same thing when you're casting too. It's like we do a strong effort to like avoid Twitch chat so it doesn't fuck with our minds when we're actually trying to find the words and cast. So
if I'm casting with someone and they have Twitch chat open like next to them, I'll clip them behind the ears. And I'll kick them out my booth. I'm like, you're not bringing that into my house right now. I cannot deal with that.
I'm a maniac. I love it. Bring it.
See, nah, man, I can't. On the desk, I have no issues, but I think when it comes down to like casting for sure, it's like I can't deal with Twitch chat because I'm so focused on like if I look at Twitch chat for like 5 seconds, I miss everything in terms of a color caster of a set strat, especially in a game like Valorant that has so many abilities. But definitely, I think if you have to rely, Heather, on Twitch chat to know if you're doing well or not, and you're observing, that's a fucking
that's thing. You're doing a good job. When you're doing a good job is when no one says anything about the No news is good news. Don't say anything, and then we're doing great.
God. It seems like the art of observing is even more apocryphal than the art of casting. There's like a little bit of resources out there for casting, but observing it feels so intuitive. It feels so experience-based. It feels so trial and error. Things you just pick up over time that like no one wrote the book on it. It's not like, observing and how to spell it. It's the top seller on Amazon now. Like,
oh my God.
It doesn't exist yet. So
I know exactly what book he's talking about. And I'm looking at it now.
Yep. No one wrote the book on observing. So, I mean, getting these insights is really good. We've got a little bit of time, Vance and Veli, for a couple more questions before we wrap up and move on. So fire away.
Oh,
Billy, go ahead, man.
I'm done. This was really informative. I never got into the road of observing. So, Heather, like honestly, like when talent announcements come out and people go crazy for the casters, I'm the one that goes crazy for observers. So get shit.
You know what?
You
they don't do
of
enough of those.
They don't. Why don't they do that?
Yeah, right. We're kind of like directors. Yeah,
right.
See
Heather's. I see Heather's fucking face on all the graphics and everything. Like, come on.
I mean, she can take my panel in the announcements. That's fine. I don't need to see my money.
No, the worst like Heather's there's like 10 observers, and we're all named, and you know, I'm a little more known than some people. Okay, you know, I do a lot of events,
Clout.
but
Little flex,
someone
little flex.
messes up and they're like, oh, Sapphire again. Typical. It's like I'm just sitting over here like typing in Twitch
Yeah,
chat.
you're like
That's
drinking
it.
a coffee, watching the stream.
Oh
People
my
like
God.
molding you in chat. You're not even doing it.
Yeah,
Well, that's
exactly.
the thing. Now your name is associated. I mean, that means your name is synonymous with observing. You know, in Valorant or Counter-Strike. So we take the good with the bad a little bit. You know.
If anything, Heather, your name is now associated with the Hall of Fame as well. So congratulations on that too, being inducted into the Hall of Fame with the
Hey,
SFI.
yeah,
and-
that was a thing.
That
yeah,
Yes.
exactly right. So like,
I don't know.
what's-
Someone sent my invitation. I don't know. It should have gone to Vansilli. You've been around for a long time. I think that was
man, I've been on
yours.
and off.
But
No.
yeah.
I've been on and off. You've been grinding the whole time, and you've been a pillar into like exactly going into how to observe and being a pillar of how we observe Counter-Strike for today. So definitely well deserved. And we want to know. Actually, I want to know what's next in store for Heather at the same time too, with everything going on with Dignitas and everything going on with First Strike, Valorant, and even CS.
Yeah, I certainly keep busy. You know, I do love esports, so that means I can't sleep. But yeah, we're doing exciting things at Dignitas. We built a beautiful facility, and then COVID happened, so we haven't been able to use it. Someday we've got some really cool streaming boosts from there, and I'm going to start to get into more streaming. But we've got a
Awesome.
lot of exciting players and teams that we're bringing on. Our women's Valorant team is now dedicating almost all of their time to Valorant and less of CS:GO,
Nice.
which
Oh,
is
awesome.
shoot.
which
Nice.
is very exciting for them. And then yeah, on the observing front, you know, I take whatever work I can get. So I've got some CS:GO at the end of the month, which I can't say yet, and I've got some Valorant
Nice.
early
Nice.
February.
Yeah.
Sounds like
And
blast.
you know, as we talked about, I've always wanted to do the school of observing. And you know, years ago I used to think like, you know, I got to protect these secrets. You know, these are
So I don't
important.
want to train my
These are
successes. You know.
important.
Yeah.
But I realize, you know, there's far more events out there than there are good observers, and I'd love to share my knowledge with the world. So someday I'm going to sit
Great
down
way.
and write the book.
Heather,
Very
it's okay
humble.
to say you know just how far ahead you are right now, and you have
That
the
was
head
so
start. You can afford
silly.
to pass on, so you're allowed
I
to
was
say
gonna let
It's
that
okay.
slide.
Oh man.
Heather, thank you so much for joining us. Before we wrap, there any shout outs you want to give? You mentioned streaming. Where can we find that stream when the time comes for you to get more
All
involved
right.
in that?
Well, yep. Twitch.tv/Sapphire. So actually, after big events, for example, First Strike, I did pull up those VODs and analyze those on stream from an observer perspective, which probably no one else is doing. So if you like that kind of stuff, then you can find it on my stream.
Definitely.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Heather, so great to have you here. Good luck, of course, with your events coming up as well. And we're thankful to have you involved in Valorant as well, and you staying involved in Counter-Strike to keep leveling the observing game up. What a pleasure to chat with you. And now we have a chance to move on here in the show. I think before we get too far ahead, we haven't really talked much about Yoru from our perspectives here. We kind of got to hear it from Heather's, which, excuse me, that's an oat. In my opinion, is probably much more informed. But now it's time for the Papega test
Yes.
from guys who haven't played Yoru yet. So I'm going to start by
Gold
saying that he's going to be busted at my rank, which is gold. Yep, completely broke.
Yes. No,
I-
Yoru. Oh, go ahead, man.
No, go Valley, please.
No. I really think that he's gonna like unlock the meta like entirely. So I did say one thing in the past about how he could replace Jet. But yo, imagine if like look at Envy, you have multiple operas. Take a look at Renegade, you got multiple operas, right? Yo, you can have Yoru and a Jet. Like, and also late game clutch situations.
Exactly.
I think he's the best. There's no
Yeah.
one better. Flashbang, you can fake him out with the steps, and you can go invisible. Man, get him on my roster.
my Pepeka take about this is I think that TSM, which is the reason why I'm wearing this shirt today, I think they're going to be one step ahead of the game in terms of competition, because they're already the type of team that's able to run triple duelist and not use any sentinels right now. And the reason why I say that is because I've asked into Steel stream, also usually playing a Cypher or Killjoy for 100 Thieves. I was like, what do you think about Yoru's kit? And what do you think about Yoru's playstyle? And Steel says, Yoru very much resembles the type of playstyle that I want to have for my team. Or myself as a player. And I said, okay, well, is there going to change that you guys are going to go no sentinels and stuff like that too? He's like, look, I'm going to have to play it to find it out. But
Yeah.
now when you think about the beta days of when you had players like Steel that lurks around, players like Brax that lurks around as a Cypher, players like Death that lurks around as a Cypher and getting entries on mid-side B when he was first picked up by Dignitas. There's an opportunity now that instead of having a kit that watches flanks, then you have a lurker that watches flanks and a lurker that could come later on to win those clutch rounds like Brax does, right? So, and when you already have that available, and players and a team like TSM that already plays without a Sentinel and a playstyle that matches somebody like Sabrosa, I think they might be one of those teams once again, or the team once again, that starts the meta of first being the jet operator and now the triple duelist being very much viable than it used to be.
Vance, you and I think so much alike. I was going to say, if there was one person I could see on Yoru, it's Sub. Sub. Like, Sub on Yoru would be fantastic. Think about him on Split and these other maps. But not only that, you look at the Thieves of the world, the 1v1 players that can isolate these fights. They're going to dominate.
Yeah.
Way more than a player like Phoenix ever did. Like,
well,
let's be
I think
honest.
someone like Sabrosa loves, like, let's talk Ascent, right? He loves to play sort of towards the A main. He wants to take a peek. He wants to get an aggressive sort of one-on-one win early in the round so we can pressure defensively, so we can pressure the attacking team's side hits, right? They never know where he's going to come from. I think that works really well for Steel. Steel is uncanny in his ability to push aggressively off a site on his own for information and start to wrap around. So not only now does he have the kit, like Cypher or Killjoy that would allow him to control space, he can also sort of he can sell fakes. He could fake a flank and go back to the site and maybe force some sort of rotate or force aggression there. And now he has a flash to work with as well.
Like,
which
come
is
on,
huge.
He's so good.
That is a nasty bit of kit. So
the ceiling is high.
I hope that everybody out there takes the opportunity today to try him out. Maybe not in ranked, maybe try not to grief your teammates too much, but you're always looking like a pretty impressive prospect going forward. And we'll see how he starts to develop a little bit more. But we're going to move along here, gents, now with Yoru in the back of our minds or in the back of our rearview mirror.
Sorry.
Let's talk about a little bit of the work that's coming out of the community. Something that I've really loved seeing and something that pairs well with the richness of character in the Valorant world, so to speak, is a lot of the art that we get to see as a result of it. So we want to take an opportunity to spotlight some of our community efforts. This first one here comes off of Reddit, as many of these do, from, can't pronounce that name, but you can see it there in the bottom right corner. Some nice little Cypher art. Love it.
I think it's cool. I think it looks like, what was that graphic novel called before? Night Owl? Watch Owl? Watchmen, that's it. Doesn't he look like the guy from Watchmen? Like
Rorschach? Yes.
Yeah, Rorschach. I think it's a really cool concept with the way that it's being drawn, and the I Saw You Secrets, very like comic book novel type of style. I think this is great talent.
I love this next one, just quietly. This next one is very, I mean, talk us through this one.
This is the greatest. Agent named Flash, right? All right, first ability, the motherfucker throws a flash grenade, okay? The second ability, the motherfucker sends out a beam of light in the air, blinding anyone that looks. An even better flash. But the third, oh my God, he instantly flashes all opponents within 10 meters. You thought that was enough? No. Uber, you said what? He literally turns into the sun?
He is the sun!
You instantly explode, creating a flash so powerful it permanently blinds all players on the map. That is actually so worth it. And Van said,
yeah,
tell him
exactly.
what you said.
I like I said, I was like, another Pipika take, but I'm like, if this agent could only use pistols, agent number 15.
Yo, like all I think is the Oprah meme. You get flashed. Everyone gets flashed.
Yeah,
I think there's some concepts
Shanks,
that's super
the Shanks
cool,
meme where he just gets flashed about 20 times and just gets up and walks away.
That's it.
All right, so we have a little bit more as well. This one is maybe a little bit more, I'd say more artistic there.
So
great depiction of Jet, everyone's favorite knife slinging waifu.
Her eyes. Oh.
Yo, definitely we got to figure out, like, whenever we're celebrating these two in the future to be able to put the name of the artist or where we can find their stuff.
Bottom right corner.
Oh, I had the chat open. My bad, guys. My bad, Ian. My bad, Dan.
So this is from I Am Uncomfortable from Reddit. I love this. I really enjoy seeing different depictions and different art styles applied to so many of these characters. So
dude, drawing the cosplay, the I think there's a lot of people that are also very keen to trying to figure out what the lore is or rather going to be for Valorant, and that's going to add another layer of fan base to the game too.
The live stream yesterday was fantastic. When we saw Yoru released, we actually saw like the interplay between him and Phoenix as they're trying to retake that side of the
so
icebox.
nice.
That is my jam. That is so
nice.
good.
Hell yeah.
some passing voice, like some interaction between these characters, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I thought that was incredible. And I love how they showcase like so many of those abilities.
Yeah.
Like we saw Jet use the updraft at one point as she sort of falls down on the container. Like,
Yeah,
if you haven't seen that, go and watch it. It's incredible.
it's
Let me
dope.
see how the boss does it. Like just the way they
Yeah.
incorporate everything around. I'm gonna be honest. Those cinematics are like the definition of cool.
Mhm.
They do it so well. They know who they're targeting with these, and it works.
I mean, they do it for League of Legends too, right? If you guys watched the announcements for League of Legends last week and
Oh, it's
and the
beautiful.
storyline they
Yeah,
had with
dude.
Senna and Lucio and stuff like that
Oh,
too, and
so
also
good.
bringing the King into the next season.
Yeah, the Ruined King,
Yeah.
another angsty looking white-haired sort of very lean, very trim anime looking boy. That's
Riot's
fair
good
enough.
with
There are
their
plenty
shit,
of
man.
those.
I love it.
They're
Plenty
awesome
of
with their
those.
artwork.
Yeah,
And of course, we have one more. We have one more really impressive piece of art. I'm not sure if this takes the one of the week, but this sexy Sova. That looks like my shocked art trajectory, to be honest.
I mean the name the Reddit name kind of like matches the art. I don't know. It's like kind of memey. I like it. It almost feels like Tintin is cosplaying into a Sova.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how he's looking. Looks like he's been riding a horse for the last 3 days. You know what I mean? Pretty bow-legged, quite a long nose. Maybe maybe old Sova's been telling a few porcupines. So he's getting some Pinocchio looking.
This is beautiful art.
It is a thing to behold. Let's move on though as well. Something maybe a little bit more serious take. We did see, of course, the Complexity Tournament over
Yeah.
the course of the weekend just passed. I didn't see it. I was in a hospital room just sort of hanging out with my son. But obviously, Vansilli, you were very deep in that one, Valley. Of course, I'm sure you got around it. So let's talk a little bit about the groups that we saw in the Complexity Tournament now, the NSGxComplexity Invitational. We can see here quite a few big names from sort of tier 2 and a little bit of tier 1.
Yeah, definitely. I think if you're looking at overall of all of these teams at a glance, I mean, nice to see that Beast Coast still participating. When we talked about Vanity, the first one joining, Project being like a kind of like a pug team looking for an organization. I think they were like the X Mamba mode, if I'm not mistaken, and then it became Monkey mode. Now going into this event as
Monkey
Project.
mode.
Yes.
The thing is, I like that Timon got a map away from Dignitas into groups. They're looking better and better to every event. And it's nice to see that, people harp on Ninja a lot, but overall as a team, these guys are taking it very seriously, and being able to take a map out of Dignitas is a great feat. But surprisingly enough for me, seeing Space Station Gaming and Nbox out of the groups.
Yeah.
I mean, Group D for me was like the group of death anyways, and it was a tough one between SSG and NRG. But Space Station just picked up Profi before, but Nbox just dropping out of group is probably my biggest surprise. I thought they were going to be the team that were going to win it all, but they didn't even make it out of groups.
Now, sorry, you go, Billy.
No, I was gonna say I was looking at Space Station Gaming earlier because like I really wanted to root for him hard because the simple fact that is it Profi or Profi? 'Cause I was calling him Profi this whole time.
I think it's
I call him
Profi.
Profi. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Profi is a phenomenal player. Like we saw him on Moon Raccoons and everything else, right?
Yep.
And then Space Station still didn't make it out of groups, and Box didn't make it out of groups. And there's something we're gonna talk about a little later, but despite what everyone says, I think that the high top end of tier 2, I think they're remarkable. They're remarkable, but the rest of it, I still think we're a long ways out from really shaping out that scene.
Hey, Luminosity obviously make changes, right?
Luminosity makes so many changes.
We saw JMO depart. I think what was it? Was it?
No. Let me say
Am I getting mixed
KZ,
up?
Exactly.
KZ, the
Right.
Opper, he's gone. Venerated was gone before that. Who else left?
Mata.
They lost some stars, man.
Yeah. So Venerated after being the Sova going into the roster, and then you had Shaija going in as the Jet Opper. They both drop. I mean, Venerated wasn't having fun playing with the game anymore, so they brought in Mata. Mata looked very good for the team too. Very young, a fragger. I think it was like 16, 17 and putting up big numbers, but I guess he wasn't the right fit. So now they brought in your boy Dre, and they brought in Moose. So Moose had a stint, I think, with I think it was E United or something like that. Yeah, E United and Triumph in CS:GO, and then switched over to Valorant, and they look pretty good overall. Though I think LG, they got third place, of course, in this tournament, but I think it's also because their whole play style changed. When you looked at LG at first, having Stellar in a roster as well, he was the one that was like kind of being a support player, playing as Breach whenever they got a new flash in for Breach. And then they're like, okay, well, Jet meta operator, let's bring Shaija, who's a great Jet operator who's still looking for a team right now. But when they weren't finding the results that they wanted, I think they finally got into that same mentality as FaZe. Is like, fuck it, let's just play our own game. So when you look at how LG played this tournament, they actually did not have a jet operator in this roster. So you're really counting on the high fragging power of a Proto able to anchor sites on his own, for example, like B site on Ascent. You also have a great duelist in Thief that was putting up big numbers, if not the highest number of first bloods and least number of first deaths, very close to where Pure was for Xset. And then now you have your boy Dre, that's a great duelist. We know him already from High Grounds and from 100 Thieves. And you also bring in Moose, that has the CSGO experience going into play Silva. And to get third place in this event, they're they're so good. Every time they come up with a new roster, they've been getting like a top 3 or something like that into tier 2.
These are ringers, right, Vansilli? Your boy
Exactly.
Dre and Moose are not they're not signed to this roster, right?
They're like trial going into this event, so they're still testing it out. I think this event going into 2021 for Complexity, with all of these changes and trials that we've had, I think the only definite signage that we had for all of these teams was Infinite with Energy. Everybody else, I think, is still trying around.
You feel like it's an easy run, getting the match up against Complexity in the quarterfinals for Luminosity? Do you feel like that maybe they got like a slightly easier way in?
I think Complexity overall had a great run even before going into the holidays. I think when you look at the Renegades tournament, they maybe dropped a little bit off the mark, or there was the event that they actually did good, and then following the event after that, they kind of fell off. So they're like up and down. But I think Complexity has a great roster going into 2021. I think you're looking at Jonah P and you're looking at Sharky, that are two very good players for Complexity right now. And I think they're just trying to find a groove of trying to find the right strategies that's going to be able to, or to gel well as a strategy together to be able to perform at the top level that they should be and be the juggernaut that they are, like in CSGO.
Equinox using Tex in this particular tournament. Any sort of thoughts on that now, as we have a gloss over some of the other teams here in these finals?
Tex is an amazing player. Again, another player that comes in from CSGO, and he basically was trying to find a new home right now, and he's switching into Valorant to try to find something here. I think he played in MDL with Morning Light, not the same Morning Light that played in Valorant before they got picked up. But this guy has like the CS mentality playing into the games. When I was watching his matches, he did a lot of pre-fired shots. So it was wall bang every single corner that you think somebody's going to hide in there. Very Counter-Strike type of mentality. And when he has about like 8 bullets left, still good enough because he has a crisp aim. So you wall bang to push your opponents out of position if they're actually getting tagged, and you use that 1-2 shot to actually win the fight overall. This guy, again, was another one of those players that had a high number of first bloods throughout this tournament. One of the top 4, actually, and the top 4 are all duelist players, by the way, of course, being in the first bloods category. And I think Tex is a great addition to Equinox. Equinox overall, I think they've been like up and down too ever since they got picked up as Equinox. They haven't won anything that important. And they've been trying to find the right synergy and the right agent composition that they wanted to play. They switched players around to different agents, and in the end, it seems as though they might have that right solution now with DXN going as a Sova. You have Pancakes now in-game leading instead of DXN. Decomp unfortunately falls short from the roster, but I wouldn't be surprised if Tex gets actually picked up by Equinox after.
All right, Veli, what's going on with Nbox here? Because we expect a lot from them recently, I think with good reason, but they lose consecutively to Equinox, and they fall out of this tournament against Luminosity in groups. They don't even sort of get towards the finals. This has to be a bit of a shocking result.
No, that's definitely shocking. I'm going to be completely honest. So in case you guys didn't notice, like, I don't have pink walls right now, so like I've been moving everywhere. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't watch too much of the tournament. I really didn't see Nbox play with Vansilli. So the one thing about Nbox, they really came out of nowhere, and I was really happy because I know their management, I know their GMs. Like I knew they were going to pick up talent, even though like I personally never heard of these players. Like way before. What was their fall off?
I think it was being over aggressive on certain rounds where they got really punished for it, because when you're looking at the final scores of this matchup, they both finish at 14-12 versus LG. And I remember specifically this map. I think when they execute towards this A side, it came down to like a 4 versus 2, and Thief made it into the corner of that left side doorway of screens. And then when everybody else was rotating into the site, you had android that just decided to walk through the smoke and try to go for a punishing blow instead of waiting for his teammates to go for a 4 versus 2 retake, which actually lost him the round. And I guess it was the round that brought him to overtime. But then I do remember the matchup as well on Ascent where Yaster, for example, peeks out towards Catwalk, sees Thief on B-Link, misses the shot. But as he misses the shot, he still decides to press forward on Catwalk to try to land a second shot, and Thief had the angle and then just killed him. So I think overall, one thing was some small mistakes from Nbox, but LG overall not having a jet and using their own playstyle and using their own game. They definitely looked like that stronger team going into the series. Unfortunately for Nbox there at that point.
So it wasn't a case of just Nbox just being trash. It's
No.
We're the better team.
LG were the better team. Equinox looked like the great team, like I said before, for Tex joining into the team, and then everybody was just like wrecking it for Group C. It basically became
That's a rough group.
Yeah, in the end, Group C became the group of death. Looking at it all,
I mean, we got treated to a great final here. Build by Gamers are continuing to impress us now with the recent edition of Critical.
Yep.
They look nasty, and they actually they take a map off of Xset in this final, and it's on Xset's best map ostensibly. So, I mean, Vansilli, we got treated to quite a series between these two, and both rosters really seem to be on the rise.
Yeah, because when you're looking at BBG versus Xset, they were in the same Group 2 and Group A, and then it was the BO1 matchup where BBG lost 13-11. So BBG was, to me, the only competition that Xset had in this tournament. So BBG, when they were Echo 7 going into this, they had never had good results. Now, as you mentioned, they brought Critical, but they also brought in Bjor. And Bjor has some great setups with his Killjoy that actually got, I think I counted at least 4 Killjoy turret kills that he had playing as Killjoy for BBG. So his setups are really good. His alarm bots are in positions where he's actually able to connect onto opponents to be able to do the maximum damage on the turret and maximum damage on firepower overall. So I think BBG, they're going to be a top contender in the Tier 2 team for 2021.
Now,
that's bold. Okay, I love it.
Yeah, I like it. We're constantly seeing different teams start to sort of take out top honors in many of these tournaments. And for an interesting tweet from KP, who we may know, thank you for obviously, he mentioned that, is Valorant random? Like, there's so much, I mean, there seems like it could be a lot of parity, right, between these teams. They speculate whether it's something to do with the game, the mechanics of the game, or, why is it that all these 10K events have different champions, and why maybe is it that it's so hard for, teams even below Tier 1 to actually get consistent wins? I mean, AP says, a lot of teams are getting inconsistent results. Is it how quickly the game's changing, addition of maps, agents? Why do we think this is happening right now?
I mean, like, logically, like, when did the game come out? Like, and the meta is constantly changing. I mean, we can't, it comes a point in time, hydrate, baby. It becomes a point in time
drink that
where,
up,
like, we stop comparing, like, what's happening in other big games in their Tier 2 scenes, such as CS. Let's take a look at League, Rainbow Six, whatever. And we take a look at Valorant for what it is. It's a brand new game with an ever-changing meta. And the simple fact is, you can't compare 20 years of competitive gameplay to transition over to here to where things are solid and stable. We're going to, like, what we see in NA, like, these top teams, there's going to a point in time where Sentinels, they're possibly going to fizzle out. TSM is going to fizzle out, like, and still things are going to change out. We were predicting Envy to win, and they didn't win at first strike. You take a look at Tier 2. If we can't even correctly predict Tier 1, this is going to happen. It's just a trickle-down effect. I don't think that this is something super serious that should be looked into. It's kind of like, dude, game's been out half a year. People are still learning the game. We still haven't even seen the natural Valorant pros yet. So what more can we expect right now?
The thing is, it's still going to change, right? It's still going to be ever changing because you're technically about to have 5 more agents that's going to come in 2021.
Hello.
You're technically going to have 2 more maps coming in 2021 as well to make the map rotation at 7. So there's going to be a lot of changes that are going to happen still. But when you're looking at the Tier 1, within the top 5 of Tier 1 teams, nobody comes close to them. And even within those 5, they kind of like are able to beat each other on any given day. But when you look at Tier 2 teams, yes, there is. I don't think it's necessarily a level of consistency, but anybody could beat anybody. Why? I think it's more you're looking at. I think the comments when I look at the Twitter, I don't really agree with that one. Is like the RNG that they talk about the pistol rounds. And hopefully that changes with the classics. But I do agree with the comments that were saying it was all about momentum. So how many times do we see like a pistol round win that converts into a second round. And if you lose the third round, which is the gun round, while the first team is on a bonus, there's a potential that the first half is already going to be at 5-0, at 6-0. And when it's at 5 or 6-0, you already have now both teams in situations where they have ultimates now too. So once the ultimates come into the play, and if that team is still able to continue, exactly. The snowball effect for
do
the
you think
momentum
making
is
an
huge.
MR15 makes this better then? Instead of a 12-round
so.
half, a 15-round half like Counter-Strike? Does that
I think
eliminate
so.
that sort of snowball
What
effect?
was that? It's
I
like
love
a
that timing on
shark
that
with a
one.
cattail.
Like some cat butt? Yeah.
You know what? I would like to say that I believe that MR15s could make a difference, but there's a potential as well that it breaks the game in terms of
What
the
does
economy,
that
right?
mean? What does that mean?
MR15 is just playing 15 rounds a half instead of 12. So that after pistol round and gun rounds, it's over. It could maybe the game sort of resets at round number 4. But then again, like if on the other end of the spectrum, if you want to play devil's advocate, why have a pistol round in the first place if you think that the pistol round is too important on shorter rounds? Just start everybody with enough at 5K and start on the 4th round. You know, it's like there's that debate too. So I think now you're looking at MR13. It took a lot of time. I mean, Alchemist is probably watching and listening to me talking and being like, what the fuck is Vance talking about, man? I've worked so hard with Midway to be able to have MR15s in Counter-Strike, and this guy doesn't want to have MR15 in Valorant when he's coming from Counter-Strike. But I think momentum's a huge thing, but I think it's more balancing into potentially the games, or looking at freeze time maybe being a little bit longer so you can really set your strategies right for the team to have a right execution going into the play. Because 30 seconds to try to call it around when you think, okay, how many orbs do we have? Who's close to an ultimate? Where are they going to control? Okay, let's try this, right? There's not enough time as an IGL, but as a spectator sport, having a freeze time that long could be quite boring too.
I'm going to be honest, that was the beauty of First Strike, right? Like on the global stage, it's a simple fact, like, you know, you look at other games where there's such long downtimes. Valorant is right into the action. It's right into the action. I think it's great. I wouldn't want that to be slowed down at all. I think that's the appeal of Valorant. It's flashy, it's fun, and it's right into the action.
Fast, yeah.
So that was obviously, it was great to see teams turn up for the Complexity 10K. And starting tomorrow, I mean, I don't know if either of you guys were involved in this. I haven't checked, but the Nerd Street Gamers Winter Championship kicks off. 4 days of play. It is going to be a mixing pot of those tier 2 teams that we were sort of just discussing, right? Like your Equinoxes, Moon Raccoons, your Andboxes, mixed in with its, you know, a couple tier 1 rosters, right? Envy's going to be there, which is going to be interesting to see how they stack up against the competition. Sentinels are also involved. So if you want to get a temperature check, ladies and gentlemen, on how our tier 2 versus tier 1 is looking, or how teams in general are looking coming out of a little bit of a break, that's what you want to be checking out. I'm not involved. I'm just plugging it because I love good Valorant, and it's a great opportunity to see some fantastic games. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure to host my first episode of Valoranting. So good to be here with Veli and Vansilli.
You guys, man.
You guys, thank you.
Amazing.
I mean, I had a ton of fun, guys. Make sure to keep in touch with us at DNP across our different platforms: twitter.com/DNpeak, twitch.tv/DNpeak. I mean, if you're watching this live, you're here already, and youtube.com/DoNotPeak Entertainment to keep up to date with all the happenings here on Valoranting. Thank you, Vansilli, Veli, for joining me, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. A huge shout out to Sapphire, giving us some of her time to come and talk about not only Yoru, but also, you know, the art of observing. I really feel like she conducts these digital symphonies a lot. She serves up this
100%.
You know, incredible, you know, observing work for casters just to set them up for success. So it's really, it makes me feel good to get to highlight someone who behind the scenes is working so hard, is doing such a fantastic job overall for this scene. Any final words from you two before we close this one out?
We back, baby. We back, bitch. Listen. I'm gonna let y'all know now, especially with this Winter Championships coming along. I moved. Vansilli's in. We have our lineup. I can't wait for us to pop off next week. I'm so all in for this. No, but it was exciting. Uber, you a dope ass Descos. I like you. And Vans, you already know the deal. So
you guys killed it, man.
You guys for bringing me along.
Great first show. I'm so excited for fucking 2021. I think even today, as we're trying new things for the Valoranting show, I think it was really fun and a success for it too. So I'm looking forward to more.
All right. Thank you very much. And obviously next Tuesday, 11 a.m. PDT, we're going to be back, of course, to discuss many things that are happening throughout the week. Of course, get a bit more of a temperature check on how Yoru's doing, see what happened at the NSG Winter Championship.
Yeah.
That's all going to be happening here. But for now, thank you for joining us. I've got some diapers to change. See you next Tuesday.
Love you guys.
Peace.